Jim and Joe to give me some good news. It's 8 o'clock. Where are you guys? Waiting for my good news. Get your fat ass starlight already.
To be honest with you, I'm gonna come out and say it. Cam Newton is an average guy. He's an average quarterback. Never been.
Yeah. Well, just let it all out, Joe. Just be honest.
This is what I'm doing.
All right. Just vent.
I do.
Get ready for 2 hours of hard-hitting football talk from two men in the know. It's Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.
Well, this is what the Patriot Handbook says, Joe. That's what you got to do. See, look at this. It's right there, rule number 143. Yep.
Jimmy just felt the need to bring the Patriots into a Raiders conversation.
I just
Can you
have
believe
to.
that?
I think I always have to do it. I'm sorry.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome once again to another episode of Football on the Know. I am Jim McPhee. Alongside of me is Mr. Joe DeCapita.
Welcome back, know-it-alls. Welcome back once again for another episode of Football on the No Show with Jim and Joe. You know what's interesting is for the first time ever, I have received a broken bone in my wrist. And
It's the first time for everything, I
It's
guess.
painful, and this is the first time I've ever done anything one-handed. So this show should be interesting for everybody. But
I'm sure you took it pretty. I heard you took it pretty well, though. You just calmly walked off the field and stuff like that. I don't know if a lot of people don't know this, but Joe does flag football and stuff like that. And he calmly just walked off the field and said, "Hey, buddy, you're going in."
I didn't know what to really feel. Like, it was the first time ever I broke a bone. I didn't know if I broke it at the time. All I know is I looked down and noticed that, okay, my wrist looks a little funny. It feels a little weird. I hope that's not serious. But walked off and went to the sideline, tagged someone else to go in for the rest of I was out for the rest of the game, and hung around all day, watched some football. Everybody kept telling me to go to the urgent care. I'm like, no, man, let me watch the last two games here. But then, whatever. I eventually got the synopsis there and diagnosis, and they were like, no, it's broke.
Well, I'm glad you can make it this week, man. I was really worried about you, so we'll see how it goes.
That's
and
it.
yeah,
we got a football show to do.
Yeah, we
you
do.
know what I'm saying?
We do.
Listen, if I can take a broken bone and show up, we're doing it. So let's go.
Sounds
let's talk
good.
some football.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of stuff going on in the headlines again. The OTAs are gone now. Mini camps have started. Where
Mandatory.
you officially have to be there. Yes.
Mandatory.
So we see Odell Beckham Jr. there now, of course, and and now so people are asking players or how it's going and things. How are the systems working out? You see some of the rumors start with other things too. Again, now the Eli and Daniel Jones thing kicked up. It was like, Daniel Jones only threw 2 interceptions and stuff. When he was in there, Eli Manning threw an interception. Well, as soon as he gets to start now, and
yeah, and all these
forget it's all he was with the second team the whole time and things like that. So
all these little small fires that start to kick up and everything in training camp and right now it's mini camps, but training camp is right around the corner. After the mini camps have concluded, I believe it's the end of this week and possibly next week is like the final mandatory mini camps. And after that, there's like a little bit of a vacation. And this is the time and period right before training camp in between the mandatory camps and the mandatory camps and also the training camp in that little vacation type spot. This is where coaches and the staff kind of get worried because right then they send these players off on a little bit of a break before training camp starts. And it's concerning because that's that time and period where players are free to do whatever. Do they take part into some extracurricular activities, a little Mary Jane, or do they happen to get in trouble with the law? It's a very troubling time for franchises right now because that's the one thing they're going to be worried about. Is even though it's not that long of a break, it's still a break, and they're out free doing whatever, parties, whatever the case may be. Some of the athletes that are there, that no matter what team that they're on, some of them are really responsible. They're not going to really partake in any kind of craziness or anything like that. But then there's the other portion of the athletes that are maybe younger, that just are partiers, that they want to have a good time. They want to go out and do things. You can do that, but be smart about it. You know what I mean? Don't drive while you're drunk. You know, we've seen that many times. That's happened. You know, don't draw attention to yourself and get caught in a troubling spot when it's not needed. The training camp is right around the corner. Stay clean, stay safe. Don't do anything stupid. It's a lot to ask.
Yeah, definitely. So it's a time where a lot of guys are trying to make names for themselves. We get to see the first look at some of these rookies when they join the teams and see how they're looking. And a lot of people making assumptions or where, you know, maybe the team, the player might be a bust here and there, or you know, they projected they might do well. We've heard things about Clellan Ferrell. We've seen like maybe he wasn't looking so good, but then I also heard from one of their coaches there who said he's fit in the scheme. I think it was their defensive coordinator, and he said, you know, it looks good. He's the guy that fits our scheme right, and you know, I'm excited to have him on our team, and looking forward. Talk about the Raiders too. I mean, they're going to be Hard Knocks now. I mean, Joe, how do you feel about that with your beloved Raiders now? I know Gruden and maybe some of them wanted to wait even until when they're in Vegas, and then maybe it's a bigger show in a sense. But when you bring all these personalities together too, I think it's going to be a great show altogether too. So how do you feel about the Raiders being part of Hard Knocks?
Well, you know what? When I heard the official statement out there that they are going to definitely be on Hard Knocks, I was a little disappointed, to be honest. You know, I thought like maybe just wait one more year till you're in the brand new facilities, the training facilities, the brand new stadium, the state of the art, place that they're going to finally call home and have a stadium of their own. I was just like, oh, just wait one more year. But then a point got brought up to me and said, hey, but listen, the reason why I think that maybe even the NFL kind of pushed and edged this for HBO to do it with the Raiders here and cover them this year in particular is because it will be kind of like a historic send-off in a sense from Oakland. It'll be the last year they play in the city of Oakland, kind of like a big-time send-off from the city, from the Raider fans in Oakland, and it's one of the most chaotic places for a fan base to go to see how the Raider fans handle themselves out there. It's absolutely insane. Hence why they call it the Black Hole. And they kind of want to just remember that. They want to kind of maybe file that little piece of history away with HBO's Hard Knocks. So, I mean, I was against it. I was really against it beforehand. I wanted to see what would happen if they went to the new facilities, but I get it. You know, I get it. It's a mark in history. It'll be the last time that they play in Oakland for the foreseeable future. And, you know, when you got guys like you mentioned, personalities, you know, they just signed a guard, ex-Pro Bowl guard, 36-year-old Richie Incognito. That guy can be a basket case. You know, in his past with the Buffalo Bills and other teams, even with the Miami Dolphins, he had an issue there that kind of got him jettisoned from the team. So that's an ego and an attitude that they're going to have to handle. You know, Antonio Brown, one of the biggest names in the for all the wide receivers in the NFL. He gets traded over to the Raiders. That's tantalizing a little bit. You also got John Gruden there as head coach, one of the most fiery, vocal coaches there is in the league, and one of the smartest. It's going to be interesting to see. There's a lot of pieces in there. There's a lot of attitudes, a lot of almost like, you know, I hate saying it, but just everybody says it anyway. But there's a lot of swagger now in the building. Vontaze Burfict, another name that's kind of like in the headlines and not so many times in the positive light. Most of the time it's in a negative light. The guy gets injured. The guy causes, you know, issues on the field. Can he settle down in a sense with this new team? And they got to get all these personalities all kind of grouped together, all line their ducks in a row, cross their T's, dot their I's, and that sort of thing. So it will be interesting, very interesting, to see how training camp unfolds with HBO.
Yeah, absolutely. And you get to see, like you said, it's a nice send-off. Here they go. And you get to see other sides of guys. Maybe AB takes it upon himself now to be even that other gentler type, because it said now that comes out that he's helping the secondary get better and things like that, too. Right. Now being more of a mentor for some of them. Surprising, too, the Hollywood Hulk Hogan kind of deal. You know,
he's being seen more as a leader for not just the receivers, but you mentioned, too, the secondary. He's teaching them little small techniques that the receivers utilize. In hopes that it'll make them a better defensive back.
I think one of the other things that's more intriguing, too, for this team is they have 3 games this year that are out of the country.
Yes.
So they have the London game. They have the Winnipeg, I think it is, right?
Winnipeg is in week 3 of the preseason.
There you go.
Doesn't really.
No, it doesn't mean.
But what's interesting about this Winnipeg game is that this is kind of like a testing. It's like, the Raiders and Packers are going to be the first guinea pigs to send them to Canada and see how the games go there. And they may, if it is very successful, you can expect the NFL to schedule some games in the future in Canada.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, oh yeah, and you see that, and you see what better two historic franchises too to start off with, the Green Bay Packers and the Oakland Raiders to go up there to show off what the NFL has to offer. So I mean, that's another interesting storyline going on too. Everybody's excited about that. Surprised. Thank you for joining us tonight. I want to thank Zach Walker is our MVP of last week's show, Joe. He was lighting it up on the chat boards.
Very active.
Very active, absolutely. So he is going to be our MVP. We're going to do this
award MVP of the week, baby.
Every week, so whoever joins in and chats the most or whatever has some great points, you're going to be labeled the MVP. Thank you to Down Monday for helping us out with the music, too. And our intro, 100%. Steve Murray, also always a pleasure. And maybe we'll have him on the show sometime too. We will definitely have him back on the show. Interviews when he's not so busy too. But the NFL season's coming up, and we're excited about that. The last couple of weeks, the last month or so, we've been doing our lists and stuff. We love to do our projected top players. We do our top 10, and it is hard to even narrow it down to 10.
It's very tough.
And when we come up with our projections, we take it, in fact, not just yards, because they want to see last year's, say, quarterback champion was Ben Roethlisberger. He had the most yards, and stuff. And so we like to put that in, receptions, touches, and touchdowns, and
the usual stats.
Everything all together, and just an overall projected players.
But then we have to take all that, put it in a blender, and project what we think they're going to do for this upcoming season.
And we find the top person that's going to piss somebody off the most. That's what we do. Always one person gets left out. All right, so we did our quarterbacks, our running backs, and what else are we going to fade into now? But the 2019 top 10 projected wide receivers. There we go. All right, coming in here at number 10, Joe, I'm going to fade over here. And
who we got? Number 10.
All right. We have at number 10, rolling in number 10, it's Mike Evans. Mike Evans, Joe. Last year he did pretty well. Even he had the first 4 or so weeks, I think it went 6 weeks, but the first 4 weeks were fire for Ryan Fitzpatrick. He was looking like Conor McGregor, wearing Deshaun Jackson's outfits. That's when Fitzmagic was really coined and things, and he lit it up.
Strutting his stuff.
But despite even all that, and then going back to Jameis Winston, Mike Evans still performed last year like you thought he would. So I see him maybe even taking a tick back a little bit this year because I'm not sure what to expect out of this team.
Right.
They do lose Adam Humphries a little bit. They do now have a different head coach, offensive coordinator. So things are a little different to mix out. I'm excited to see what's going to happen with this team.
Right.
With the weapons that they still do have. They still have O.J. Howard and stuff. So, I mean, they have enough there and enough talent to see what goes forward. But Mike Evans is definitely going to be a solid wide receiver. I see him coming in at number 10. What do you think, Joe?
Yeah, and this is, we did the list together because when we do it separate, it takes way too long. So we had to, put our heads together on this one, and I agree.
And we usually arm wrestle over it, but you have a broken arm here, so I won every time.
This is my better arm. So anyway, Mike Evans comes at number 10. I agree. Here's the thing with Mike Evans is Jim's right. You have a brand new offense that's going to have to be digested by Jameis Winston and company like Mike Evans. They do have O.J. Howard, who started to come on big time last year. They also have Cameron Brate, who they re-signed. So they got dueling tight ends that can really stretch the field well. Chris Godwin's coming back. And he looked very, very good from last season. So there's a lot of positives to this offense, but also the unexpectancy is how well will Jameis Winston play under a completely new offense. I understand it's under Bruce Arians. He's one of the best coaches in football, but it's concerning because we don't know what we're getting in Jameis Winston still. He's gone through a lot of different coordinators. Every coaching staff that's kind of run through Tampa since Winston has been there, Winston hasn't played up to par, up to his draft pick. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers can't wait and hope that maybe this year will be the year where he can prove himself, and not only prove himself this year to this organization, but also his contract is running out. So he's got to do something to justify him staying in Tampa, and I think this year will be this is his make or break year. He's got to prove it. And with the weapons that he has at his disposal, there's no reason why he can't. So we have Mike Evans at number 10.
All right. Now,
Number 9.
Coming in at number 9 is
T.Y.
Hilton.
I would
There
do
we
the
go.
T.Y. thing, but I can't.
T.Y., there you go.
You have to do T.Y. So T.Y. Hilton at number 9 with the Indianapolis Colts. You got to expect that he's going to do even better than last year. Now, he was kind of on that level round 10, last season in terms of stats. But T.Y. Hilton coming into this year, now the Colts, as explosive as they were, T.Y. Hilton did miss 2 games last year and still put up the numbers that he did. Pretty tremendous. He comes in this year. Now he's going to come back healthy once again, but he's got another pal on the other end. He has Devin Funchess coming from free agency, which Andrew Luck is going to love because it gives him another big weapon, probably most likely a big red zone target. With his frame and all, he has speed, he's got hands, he's got the whole package. Along with a successful draft by the Indianapolis Colts, bringing in Paris Campbell from Ohio State, who to me was one of my favorite receivers coming out of this year's draft. And I think he's going to develop nicely. So I think they got a nice package deal here with the receiving core. A young one, except for maybe T.Y., but a very good one. And you also got to mention Marlon Mack coming back healthy, and he's going to contribute heavily also. So I think with this improved offense, with the added weapons, we see T.Y. Hilton getting into the top 10 at number 9. What do you say, Jim?
Yeah, I agree. Same thing. I saw him with the addition of Devin Funchess as well. Like you said, they've drafted Paris Campbell. Maybe Jack Doyle will stay healthy this year, and they have the 2 tight end tandem Eric Ebron here. He looks to try and break Rob Gronkowski's record.
He
I
really
don't
wants
see him
to.
doing that this year. But health, just like a lot of this with these teams, is the same thing with this team and how far they can go. We saw what happened when a lot of them, all the healthy guys, started to come back and things. What they could do, push into the playoffs, and the sky is the limit here with this team. So we'll see what happens with T.Y. And it's a big difference when Andrew Luck is in there. When he was not, surprisingly enough, T.Y. Hilton cracks the top 10 almost every year. And a lot of people don't give him enough credit. He's one of those hidden guys.
Not at all.
So T.Y. is coming in at number 9. Number 8 is Antonio Brown. Here, we're moving him in at number 8. Some people will be surprised maybe that he's too far down. Maybe surprised that he is, even
not
in the
top
10
5
or not in the top 5. Yeah. But we said Antonio Brown just because there is a little bit of mystery. Yes, I see him being the number 1 target probably here for Derek Carr, and it's a nice fit for Oakland and John Gruden's offense. So I see him performing well. Just wondering how it might go. So you'll see what happens here with Antonio Brown.
Yeah, and Antonio Brown, the thing with him is we see him taking a big step down in terms of ranking because there's a lot of uncertainty with this Raiders team now. We know that Derek Carr gets to come back for another year under Gruden's offense. He's a lot more comfortable now. He was able to really kind of take it on at the later part of the season and really start to develop well with Gruden. Now he's coming back. He's got a lot of toys. That's the thing with Carr last year. Carr last year had who? Jared Cook. And that's pretty much it. Mm-hmm. They did have Jordy Nelson there, but he really didn't give that extra oomph that offense needed to really kind of put even more points on the board, and they struggled because of it. They had to rely heavily on just their tight end, and it failed. This year's much different. They got Antonio Brown in a trade. They got a lot of weapons through free agency, and it looks like there's so many weapons on this team. Now it's going to be – you're going to have to wonder, where are they going to distribute this football? We already know that Antonio Brown should be a very important part of this offense. But there's so many toys to play with for Derek Carr, and the fact that you can go to anybody here in this offense. We don't know how the balls are going to be divided up and divvied up, but we think Antonio Brown's going to take a little bit of step downward because he's not going to be such a huge focal point. He will be big, but he gets down to number 8.
All right, we have MVP sighting, Joe.
We do.
Zachary Walker. Here he is. Our last week's show's
Welcome
MVP
back
is here
to
in
the
the
show.
house. And Mike Tackett also is in the house. Yes, there he goes. Here we go. Here he goes. He's bringing up a happy Stanley Cup Finals Day, gentlemen. Yes, it is the finals. I want the St. Louis Blues to win. I'm sorry. I mean, I know the Boston Bruins are pretty impressive and things like that, and it's nice. And I understand the franchise and how they're elite, but I would like to see somebody else win. I like to how it sprinkles in and see the St. Louis Blues win. We'll see how that goes during our show tonight. Wanted to get your thoughts on Melvin Gordon wanting a new deal, 4 years and just over 3,600 yards and 4 touchdowns. I think he meant 28 touchdowns right there. He updates right there. 28 touchdowns isn't anything to write home about, especially considering he had 55 total rushing yards in 2 playoff games. I'd be hard-pressed to give him a raise if I'm Mr. Spanos.
Yeah, I mean, Mike is right on this. Even though Melvin Gordon is like an underrated running back, he doesn't get a ton of praise, and that was probably partially because early in his career, he struggled big time. He fumbled a lot. He just wasn't making plays. He was struggling with the offense. And quite honestly, he wasn't making those big, huge plays down the field, those big runs for like 50, 60 yards for a touchdown. Now he is towards the end of his deal. But here's the thing: is like as much as he wants a raise, I'm curious to see where the Chargers value him, because even though he is a huge part of their offense, and right now is every bit worth the pick that they took him at, he also has been banged up from season to season. He had a major injury early on in his career, and he's come back from that, and he's done very well for himself. Now, here's the thing: is running backs right now, the market for them is not highly valued. We look at the whole deal, or I should say deals, with Le'Veon Bell, with deals with Todd Gurley. The Rams made Todd Gurley the highest paid running back, and now are kind of like, you know what? Maybe we shouldn't have done that huge deal, because now we have concerns about his knees again. We're going to have to dial back the amount of touches that he receives, So that's where you start to see these running backs in this market dive down, is because there's more potential for injuries. They're greater, and they happen more often, no matter what the talent level is. You look at Le'Veon Bell, too. Le'Veon Bell thought he was worth way more than Todd Gurley's contract, $14.5 million a year. Well, I tell you right now, he tested the market. There were several teams interested in him. Baltimore Ravens were one of them. The Jets were heavily interested. And he still did not eclipse the deal that the Pittsburgh Steelers offered him. So there you have it. Even one of the best running backs in the league couldn't get to be highest paid. So now you talk about Melvin Gordon, and as successful as he's been recently in the past couple of years, you got to wonder, what do you value a guy like that at now? Because are you going to make him the highest paid out of everybody? And if you do that, now here's the thing, here's the other side of the coin. You say you pay Melvin Gordon an absurd amount to stay your running back, to be the highest paid running back, we'll say. What's that do for your cap? You're going to shorten your cap span, and you're not going to have enough space to sign multiple players down the road. Instead, you're going to be handcuffed, and you're not going to make your team better for the long run. You're not going to make those signings are critical. Free agency, I know sometimes people overlook free agency and say, hey, it's just a big waste of money. It's about how you budget. It's about how you plan out these signings. Does the guy fit your scheme? If he does, bring him in. If you can get him on a decent deal, it's going to pay off big time for you. And that's the problem. I think a lot of teams, not a lot, I'll say some teams, they go in free agency when they have a ton of cap space, and they're like, ooh, we got a lot of toys. We're going to get this guy. We're going to get that guy. That doesn't make you a winner. Just because you're able to sign more free agents and more high-profile free agents doesn't make you a winner. It's those smart decisions that you make. We see the Patriots do it all the time. I know I hate to bring them up, but they're the ones that do it the best. They wait. They don't go in the first wave of free agency and say, we want the best linebacker that's on the market, like C.J. Mosley this year. He was highly touted as being the number one middle linebacker to go get. And even though there's teams falling over themselves trying to get him signed and everything, the Patriots will just sit back there and they'll wait for either a veteran that kind of slips under the cracks, like you look at Jamie Collins got cut from the Cleveland Browns.
Yep.
Jamie Collins could go right back to the Patriots.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
And it's already in the
Fit right
works.
in.
There's been
Yep.
rumors about him possibly going back home.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to pay hardly anything
Yep.
for him, and he's going to do extremely well.
Yep.
So, and I know he's a little older. Yes, okay, he's 28, 29 years old. But the thing is that the Patriots don't rush to judgment. They don't rush and go out and acquire a player or sign a player because they need that player. They need that position right now. They carefully and methodically plan out who can we target that's going to fit in this budget and fit our team to a T and outplay their contract. That's how they've done it for years.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they've been so successful in the long term. So now it's the same thing with the Chargers. Now they got to do the same thing. Is Melvin Gordon, can you get him on a decent deal to keep him? Because Phillip Rivers ain't going to last forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when Phillip Rivers leaves, it's like starting all over again. You got to hit the reset button in terms of finding that new quarterback. I thought that they might want to maybe test the waters this year, and they chose not to.
Mm-hmm.
So now you got to wonder about this upcoming draft, this upcoming free agency, what's going to be presented to them as far as opportunity, and they got to make a judgment call.
Yeah, it's tough for them because, you see what happened with the Todd Gurley deal. He ended up being one of the highest paid running backs there, and now he's got this big injury. Now he's taking less of the workload. So are you really going to get what are you getting from that whole thing? When you're paying him that much and you're going to do less, you're overpaying him. Absolutely. And the way it works out for the Rams right now is just because Jared Goff is still on his rookie deal right now.
Oh, yeah.
So that's why they're available and be able to pay the guys that they have to play,
Right.
Aaron Donald and things like
Right.
that, and Todd Gurley that. But once Goff goes for the money, and he goes for it probably next year, things are going to happen there, and that team's going to fall apart. You're on that little limited window. Good thing going for the Los Angeles Chargers is that Phillip Rivers, if he ends up being on his tail end and on his way out, you grab another rookie quarterback, he'd still be on his rookie deal. But like you said, is he going to be the franchise guy? You don't know.
Right.
Are they going to be able to find that guy just to pick up the pieces and move on and keep going on with this talent that you have while you have it all together? Because you still have Ingram on the other side and Joey Bosa and a good defensive, team there.
Yeah,
Derwin
Brandon
James
McBain's
and stuff
coming
like
back.
that. So you have that team together. While you have that great defense, you want to be able to get your offense rolling the way you can right now. And like you said, maybe make it like a incentive laden again, or something to do to work it out to make it better for them and ease the pain a little bit on some of the money.
Right, correct.
All right, so another good point there from Mike Tackett. He always brings
As
up the
always.
good information right there. And so we are doing here was cue it up here. Our 2019 top 10 projected wide receivers. That's right. Here we go. That's a
You all right over there?
big breath. Here we go. All right, so we are moving on to number 7, and it is Keenan Allen talking about the Los Angeles Chargers. Keenan Allen in here again. He stepped up his game. Showed what kind of a receiver he could be. Some
Healthy.
people,
Healthy.
absolutely. Because even some people are like, Keenan Allen, look at this guy go. And, they'd be surprised, and even he'd be getting interviewed after the end of the game, and people would be like, what do you attribute this to? Where now you're finally around? He's like, I've been here. I'm just trying to get out here and
Just been
perform.
hurt.
Yes,
All the time.
Yes, and make it happen. And the Chargers, here come the Chargers, who was almost the laughing stock of the AFC West to some people, where they
Some
thought
people
they were
just dismissed them
Yeah, dismissed them altogether. They leapfrog up, along there and hang with the Kansas City Chiefs now. And so Keenan Allen, again, I think he only stays up in the top 10 again. I like him here at number 7, Joe.
Yeah, he slides a little bit on this list from the previous year, but it's because, here's the thing, too, is Phillip Rivers is getting older. He's not a vampire like some people want to believe. I know a lot of Chargers fans want to believe that. Or do they have fans? I'm questioning that, too, because
Not
even in
anymore.
L.A., there's
Yeah.
nobody there for them.
Yeah.
And no matter where they go, it doesn't seem like they have a huge following anymore. But anyway, Phillip Rivers, he's aging, and age is starting to show on him. He may be one of the best trash talkers on the field.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll say, and this is what cracks me up, is he's one of the best trash talkers in the NFL as a quarterback. That's the cleanest trash talker you'll ever hear. It's gosh darn it, dang it, blah, blah, blah. He never swears, but he'll trash talk all day long.
That's
it's
right.
absolutely hilarious. So
Up your nose with a rubber hose. There you go.
So Keenan Allen, his window is closing too as one of these top tier receivers, because when Phillip Rivers either calls it quits, if the franchise can't settle on a new contract extension for him, or who knows what's going to happen with this franchise, because now that window, like you said before, is getting so small now because of Rivers' age. Now, can he still play for another 4 years? Yeah, sure, he could. He could play as long as Tom Brady plays for. But on the other side of it, again, he's been battered so long in his career. He's been taking hits left and right because this offensive line was neglected, much like the Giants' offensive line, to the point where his body, I think, is beat up. And it's beat up so badly that I don't think he can sustain a very long rest of his career. I think maybe it's 2 to 3 years. My opinion, I just think that's what I see realistically for him. And Keenan Allen, he's got to be a little concerned too, because when it is done for Rivers, who's going to be throwing me the ball? Keenan Allen, he's had his fair share of injuries for most of his career. He was healthy last year, and he showed what he could do when he stays healthy, was one of the best. How long can he continue it? We think he's going to continue it at least for this year. And he ends up at number 7 for us.
Yeah, and don't forget, last year they had to resort to going to Antonio Gates to call him back because Hunter Henry's injury.
Yeah,
now he's back, so that could be another target that to take a little bit away from him.
Yeah, what's really funny about that situation is Gates wasn't even heavily involved.
Yeah.
Because even though he was on the field and he ran routes, he was so slow.
Oh,
he
I
had
know.
a hard time getting open.
Yeah.
And Phillip Rivers just had to keep throwing it to Keenan Allen
exactly.
anyway. And also the likes of Mike Williams, who plays opposite of Keenan.
Yep.
He's got to take a big step forward. In order for this offense to really kind of get where they want to be, it's not only health is a question, but Mike Williams' development this year has to take a huge step forward. They have a nice weapon, like you mentioned, Hunter Henry, who's coming back, who did not play at all last year. That's going to give them a nice boost, so they're an even tougher team than last year to face offensively.
All right, there you go. And then next up here is number 6, Odell Beckham Jr. Number 6. There you go. So he goes with a new team.
I know a lot of people are upset by this.
Yes.
There's a lot of Browns fans that are probably really upset. What are you talking about? There's some surprised fans from even when he was with the Giants. They're like, wait a second, I think Odell's better than that. Hear us out now. Here's the thing: is Odell, as great as he is as a receiver, he's on a brand new team, brand new quarterback. Even though it's an up-and-coming type of offense, it's an up-and-coming team. Odell Beckham, we don't know how this ball is going to get distributed. It's not going to be like the Giants, where he was pretty much the go-to guy all the time unless he was triple covered. And even then, that wasn't enough. But this talented Cleveland Browns team has a lot of weapons themselves that they can distribute the football to. You got Duke Johnson Jr., you have David Njoku at tight end. You have Jarvis Landry, his ex-college teammate there. There's a lot of pieces here that they can throw the ball to. It's not going to be just Odell. I still think it's going to be very hard for defenses to try to combat all those weapons and try to defend them. But we don't. And the other thing, too, is as good as Odell is, I have yet to see him in a long time be healthy all year long.
Yep.
Can he stay healthy this year? If he stays healthy, I think, he could crack top 5 easy. He could be top 3. But that's a big question mark.
Yeah, Zach agrees with us here. He says he likes him at 6. Good placement, fellas. Thank you, Zach. That's what we were looking at, because, again, he's always around there, top 5 here and there. Health is a big issue here.
It is.
But you're also, for the New York Giants, last year he barely stood next to Sterling Shepard or Evan Ingram because those guys were even injured half the time too as well.
Right.
So that team was put together, by bits and
duct
pieces.
tape and bubble gum.
Absolutely. So he was easily a focal point. Now you've got his buddy, like you said, Jarvis Landry there. Excuse me. You've got other tight ends that can catch it, like Seth DeVal and David Njoku. Again, another nice running back piece, like you said as well. So I mean, it should be a good. He should be a good mix for this system. But it's just almost like an unknown that we almost had with Antonio Brown.
Yeah, we're just
How is it
concerned
gonna work?
about it.
How are even the attitudes going to meld a little bit together too?
Yeah, you
Is he
got
going to get enough catches? If Jarvis Landry's going to get it.
Right.
So that's the one thing I see though. I mean, if he says, I'm not getting enough catches, but his buddy gets them, I don't think he's really that hurt. He's not really that upset.
I think the biggest thing for Odell is, as much as he loves to be in the spotlight, I think the team has to be doing very well for him to be happy. If he's not getting all the limelight or anything like that, I think the team has to be winning games. If they kind of struggle at all a little bit or anything halfway through the year, say they're 500, that's not going to make Odell happy, and he's not getting the ball on top of it. Oh boy. I hate to think what he's going to be throwing, when game time comes.
Yeah, who
is
knows?
Is he going to be
what
throwing
happens in
another
Cleveland?
kicking net? I wonder, what is he going to move on to, maybe bleachers? I mean, I don't know.
We'll see. I don't know. He is going to be in the dog pound, so we'll see. We'll see what happens there.
Maybe he climbs up the field goal post and says, "No, I'm not coming down till you throw me the
You
football."
know what? That that peeing thing he does in the end zone, that would fit now, seeing he's in
Now it
the
would
dog pound.
fit.
So there you
Right.
go. So we'll see. All right, now our top 10 projected in 2019 wide receivers. Now we're in the top 5, Joe. Cracking
That's
the
right.
top 5 is
Adam
Adam
Thielen.
Thielen.
From
That's
the
right.
Vikings.
Thielen. That's right. He is just an
Animal.
awesome, an animal wide receiver. Underlooked again a lot of times. You know what I mean? So
Underrated,
now he
definitely.
just shows up. It's nice for Kirk Cousins to have 2 great wide receivers there in that offense together. But Adam Thielen steps up every year. He cracks the top 5 here for us. I just see another big thing here for Minnesota. Another year they draft an offensive lineman to help secure the O-line for them, maybe get their running game a little more involved this year, and keep Kirk Cousins up. And he did well last year. Kirk Cousins, surprisingly, was secretly in the top 4, QBR, and then also accuracy, and yardage. So
Yeah, the most surprising part is Kirk was actually number 2 for QBR.
there you go.
So, I mean, right behind Drew Brees.
Yep. So, I mean, I like Adam Thielen here at top 5. He's stayed true the last 3 years, and here we go. So
Adam Thielen, he kind of had his coming out party last season.
Mm-hmm.
He was really heavily relied upon. Kirk Cousins and him established a phenomenal chemistry, and he was his go-to guy, not Stephon Diggs. Like, he's the more splashier type of receiver, the deep threat, the guy that makes the more splashier plays, more impact plays. But Adam Thielen is the steady go-to receiver. He's a guy that runs phenomenal routes, always gets open, great hands, may not be the fastest, but he's got size and he runs great routes. So he's getting the ball quite often. He's going to do the same thing, we think, again, and he makes the top 5 at 5.
All right.
Number 4.
Number 4. Let's see if I can scroll down. Here's my arrow.
None other than Julio Jones.
Boom. There it is.
Some people might be upset by this, but here's the
could.
thing: is you got to remember too, is we are trying to project these receivers where they're going to rank, and Julio Jones, we see him coming around 4 because, again, he's another receiver that's not getting any younger. He's a receiver that has had a bad injury history, and coming into Atlanta once again. This offense is also one of those offenses that have a plethora of weapons for Matt Ryan to throw to.
Oh, yeah.
You also look at, Calvin Ridley last year was his rookie year. And even though it was his rookie year, which it's not common for a rookie to do what he did last year, had 800-plus receiving yards, had about 68 catches, I think, and really kind of was more of a red zone threat. He had double-digit tight end or touchdowns. And I see him taking another big step forward this upcoming year for Calvin Ridley, and I think that's going to take some footballs away from Julio, even though he is still going to be the favorite for Matt Ryan. You also got to remember, too, Mohamed Sanu will be healthy once again. Devontae Freeman in the backfield, also healthy. So there's a lot of weapons to distribute the ball. We still think Julio Jones is going to get his catches. He's still going to get touchdowns and receiving yards, but we see him sliding a little bit to number 4.
Yeah, last year looked a little weird for me with Matt Ryan. When I was watching some of the games, it just seemed like he was a little sketched out. Like, I don't know if it wasn't fitting right with Sarkisian's plan. I don't know. But then he went back to reverting to, like you said, the Matt Ryan complex. Kind of just kept feeding the ball to Julio because maybe that's the guy he trusted. I'm not sure. But I just noticed that a bit watching some of the games. Like you said, finally, after like week 4 or 5, Calvin Ridley became more involved in the offense. He started getting more of his touches. You have the health of everybody, so now they're going to be more involved. I like Austin Hooper getting involved too as well. So, this team has so many weapons to spread it around, and that should be the game plan. I don't know why Matt Ryan would just feed Julio Jones. I understand maybe he was trying to work out his contract, get that going. You know, I'm not sure.
I'll help you out, bro.
Yeah. See, see how elite you are. Yeah, I don't know, but he's still an elite wide receiver. That's why he cracks our top 4 here. But again, it's part of the unknown. Last year, what he did was spectacular. And I still say he's going to be around the same area, just one tick down at number 4.
What we got for number 3, Jim?
Number 3, it is going to be Davante Adams for the Green Bay Packers. This guy has slowly moved up the rankings. You know what I mean? You saw him there produce and do things when Jordy Nelson was part of the team, Randall Cobb, and move up quietly again to where he went to Aaron Rodgers. Like, listen, give me the ball. Hit me up. I'm going to get this one. Make sure you get it to me. Or even it's an incomplete pass. He goes, come back to me again. And Aaron Rodgers proves and trusts in him to do it right back again and get it to him. And this guy's a superstar now. This guy's just moved right up. He's a superstar. And he showed what he could do even last year, being that sole guy by himself. And I don't see anybody else there in this team testing him either again. So I think he's going to be Aaron Rodgers' number 1 target. Davante Adams here cracking the top 5 at number 3.
Yeah, and we saw signs of Davante Adams already becoming the superstar that he is today 2-3 years ago when Jordy Nelson was starting to get a little older and
injury prone.
And injury prone as well. We saw Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers really start to gel together. And now he is the go-to guy in Green Bay. The past couple of years, he's really kind of kicked the door down and said, I got this. Throw it up. I'm getting it. He's one of the more dynamic receivers in this league, and he's showing it season to season as we go. This year is going to be a little bit different, though. There's no more veteran Randall Cobb. There's no more veteran Jordy Nelson around. He wasn't there last year, but still, the guys that he used to rely on as a young receiver and try to develop under are no longer there. Now he's going to be seen as the new leader of this receiving corps and the vet to help teach these other young receivers that they have already in place. They are talented. They got to develop a little further to become the next stage of their development. They got to become better. So think Davante Adams is going to help him do that. Adams is going to get his catches because he's very hard to defend, and I don't care what corner you have on him. I know a lot of people like Jalen Ramsey say he's the best in the league. There's arguments to be had for Casey Hayward as well, but I don't care who you put on him. You can hope to slow him down. You're not going to be able to shut him down. So,
and the thing is, too, with Matt LaFleur in there, if anything, if he's tried to do what he could with Marcus Mariota there in Tennessee, it didn't work out, probably just because it might have been Marcus Mariota and then the lack of weapons there. You have Aaron Rodgers now in your offense and Davante Adams. So if these guys can't make your offense work, I don't know, then it's all on you then. So Matt LaFleur here coming in with this type of deal.
Right.
It should be a lot more exciting than what was happening with Mike McCarthy.
Right.
And I think a key to their success is getting the running game involved.
Exactly. I was just going to say that. A little bit of advice to Matt LaFleur. Be a balanced offense.
Yes.
You know you have Aaron Rodgers. You know you have those weapons to throw to. You also got Jimmy Graham at tight end. How about you utilize Jimmy Graham a little bit more too? But also, same thing that Jim said. Use Aaron Jones. Use Jamal Williams. These guys are really good backs. They just haven't been given too much of an opportunity. If you keep your offense balanced, this team will score points.
All right, here we go. In our top 10 2019 projected wide receivers. Moving on to number 2. Who is it going to be, Joe? Who's it going to be?
I think it's
going to be
Michael
Michael Thomas. Yeah. So who knows?
Michael Thomas, last year he was at the top of the list for receivers. He had the most catches. He had the most yards. He was amazing in the red zone, caught crazy amount of touchdown passes, and that is why he was the leader last year. One thing about this year is high as high profile this offense is for the New Orleans Saints, as great as Drew Brees is, we think Michael Thomas is going to still be up there in the 1 or 2 conversation. However, with new weapons like Jared Cook, who the last time that they had a really good receiving tight end was Jimmy Graham, and Jimmy Graham was unreal. You couldn't stop the guy. Drew Brees loved him. I think that's going to happen the same kind of way with Drew Brees once again. Drew Brees has already given accolades to Jared Cook in camp and said, wow, he's going to make our offense really hard to stop. You got Alvin Kamara back there. You got you got Michael Thomas and quite a very young depth behind him. He's going to be great again this season, but we think instead of number 1, he's going to just dip just a tiny bit to number 2.
Yeah, Drew Brees has made plenty of wide receivers look like stars. I mean, some of the wide receivers now that he had move on to other teams and aren't as impressive in other areas. And he made Benjamin Watson, who was about to ready to retire, who actually did after the last season. You know what I mean? He made him look great. And again, it looked like he researched his career to where now even he retires, New England calls him back. And he's with New England, until he gets suspended.
And then he got suspended for 4 games.
4 games. So, but that's what Drew Brees does. Again, like you said, no matter what, though, Mike Thomas has produced, even having those weapons, and even Alvin Kamara added to the passing game as well, not only the running game, too.
Yep.
It looks good. Sky is the limit for Michael Thomas. I'm liking it all the way.
It's one of the harder offenses to stop. It's a dimensional type of offense. It's very hard to key on any one player. And it's the source of it is Drew Brees.
Taysom Hill. Like, how do you the people see him coming in, and they know he is going to get the ball,
but they don't know how.
And he still gets positive yards.
They just don't know how he's going to get it.
I know.
Is he going to be the quarterback and distribute it? Is he going to run it? Is he going to receive
the projected wide receiver of the year? Who knows the way that guy has been playing? He is lights out. That's why it always amazed me. He's throwing it in there, and
he plays special teams. He tackles.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see. Hopefully, he gets into the defensive side of things.
All right, Joe, we're going to fade to it. Let's go back through the top 10 real quick. Here we go. I'm going to fade to the top 10.
Number 10, we have Mike Evans. Number 9, we have T.Y. Hilton. Number 8, Antonio Brown. 7, Keenan Allen. 6, Odell Beckham Jr. 5, Adam Thielen. 4, Julio Jones taking a little bit of a cut to 4. Number 3, in the top 3, we have Devontae Adams from Green Bay. Going to light it up still. And number 2, Michael Thomas, going from 1 to number 2 this year. And who do we have at number 1?
DeAndre Hopkins.
There you go.
There you go. I was going to say something else, like something just totally messed up that's not right, but there you go. You gotta say it's DeAndre Hopkins. It's obvious here. This guy has shown year to year what he can do, not only in spectacular catches, but just overall being where he needs to be and making the big plays. You know what I'm saying? Year after year, despite whatever quarterback is throwing him the ball. You know what I'm saying? He's had, Savage throwing him the ball at times. He wasn't sure who was going to be there the next week or so. You know what I mean? And then even the injury to Deshaun Watson, and he still puts puts up the numbers nonstop, this guy. And you can't say enough about him. Good person and production all the way through and through.
Through the charts.
DeAndre Hopkins, I don't think anybody can argue with that as our number 1 here.
I mean, I hope, I'd be
even with the other wide receivers he has too. He has some great wide receivers along with him, and still steps up.
Yeah, you think about Will Fuller, but the problem with Will Fuller too is, as good as he is, he gets injured all the time. Mm-hmm. So that's gotta hurt. That dramatically hurts this offense and what it could possibly be if it was able to stay healthy all year long. DeAndre Hopkins, in my mind right now, I think he's one of the best receivers in the league. I think, if not the best. I think he has one of the best hands in the league. And he runs phenomenal routes. He's got size. He's super strong. He's got everything that you ever want in a wide receiver. We think that with another year of development from Deshaun Watson, with another year under this offense, we think that Hopkins is going to excel even more. And he'll end up by season's end, will be the number 1 receiver.
There you go. And that's our 2019 top 10 projected wide receivers. All right. Again, lately, too, this season, we've been coming up with some other different types of segments and stuff. And we decided to think it would be a good idea to come up with a fact of the day or fact of the week that we do.
That is
And,
right.
Yeah. So, I mean, so then again, because we're all about knowing and joining in together, giving opinions to everybody. We want people to have knowledge of. We want people to walk away from this show and learn something new. You know what I mean? So, and bring and share it with somebody else. So this is
Absolutely.
one of our newest segments we do here too, and it is our In the Know fact of the day, Joe. All right. So here we go. We're going to move into our fact of the day. And here you go. It's a fact. Here we go. This is awesome. When I found this out, it was pretty amazing. A North Carolina man owns the only known recording of Super Bowl I, as CBS and NBC didn't save it. Wow. The NFL countered his $1 million offer for the taping with $30,000.
What?
Then later refused to buy it at all.
What?
Yet warned him he'll face legal action if he sells it to anyone.
Oh, come on.
How about that?
Come on, dude.
So there's one guy in North Carolina that owns this copy of the Super Bowl I, and he's got to keep it to himself in the threat of even being sued somehow,
Listen,
by the NFL.
the funniest part of that little tidbit there, that little bit of news, is that he was willing to sell it to the NFL, which makes, on average, $10 billion. That's right, billion with a B, dollars a year. Mm-hmm. Probably more than that now. As popular as the NFL is getting now worldwide. They offered him $30,000.
Yeah.
They offered him basically, to buy a brand new car.
Yeah.
Yeah, so here,
it must have been right after Super Bowl I or something. They must have did. So 30,000 was a lot then, maybe, or something
Yeah,
like that.
but,
I'm glad he went for
that-
like $1 million back
Right.
then, though. At
You
least,
have to. You have to. And I'll tell you right now with inflation, brother, you can offer it up for much more than that to the NFL. The NFL should have took advantage of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So there you go. That's our In the Know fact of the day. We'll keep bringing them to you every week, making you smarter and something knowledgeable to bring to the water cooler when you're at
Could
work
also,
and stuff like that.
stump your friends and be like, hey, you could be one of those guys. Hey,
Yeah.
did you know back in 1972, there was Gatorade invented in the locker room?
Gatorade, yes, absolutely. And then it really consisted of real gator blood.
That's right.
All right, so Joe, let's hit us up with some news now. Let's start some news. Let's take it up.
All right, know-it-alls. Hold on to your jock straps. We're going in on the drop here. New York Jets running back Le'Veon Bell told police in Hollywood, Florida that, get this, 2 female acquaintances took off with $520,000 of his jewelry, per Associated Press. I like how he worded that, though. Acquaintances.
Yo, they found out about each other and they said, "Yo, let's make out on this whole deal and let's just steal it together and we're out."
And we're out.
They're in
We're
Cancun.
done.
Did anybody recover any of it yet? No, nothing.
Not as of yet.
They're out.
you know?
They're gone.
It's just the funniest thing. This is
You
what I'm
have
talking
2 girls
about.
at once. That's-
For all you players out there that are going to have this break after minicamp, be careful. This could happen to you. Don't fool around. Don't get into trouble. Le'Veon Bell already got an early taste of it.
Oh yeah.
The San Francisco 49ers and left tackle Joe Staley have agreed to a 2-year contract extension, per Matt Miyako of NBC Sports Bay Area. Joe Staley how about that? Joe Staley getting a 2-year extension, and Joe Staley is getting older, much older.
Yeah.
It's amazing. But they end up keeping that offensive line together, You got to look at it that way. The Miami Dolphins have unveiled new jerseys for the 2019 season.
Oh really?
And in order to
didn't see
see those jerseys, they're actually pretty cool. They go back to Jason Taylor days. With
Okay.
the orange jersey.
Oh, okay.
They got the all teal jersey, and they also got the traditional white one.
Yep.
But they look fire, everybody.
Yeah.
They are nice. So if you want to check them out, if you're a Dolphins fan, if you're not, just want to see something new, go to our group, Football on the No Show. Scroll down the thread a little bit, and you can see these jerseys. We have a nice little video of them for you.
Cool.
Hit it up. The Arizona Cardinals have claimed offensive tackle Desmond Harrison off waivers from none other than the Cleveland Browns, according to NFL Network's Ian Rappaport. This claim is interesting because Desmond Harrison used to be the starting left tackle for the Cleveland Browns. They ended up cutting and moving on from him, and out of nowhere, some people were surprised about this move. Now, the one team that really did need a lot of help on the offensive line gets it with Desmond's help here is the Arizona Cardinals. So I think, they're preparing this team to help out Kyler Murray, who is definitely going to be the starting quarterback. They drafted him number 1 overall, and they're already trying to make whatever moves necessary in the short term to help that development. On June 6th, everybody, a special moment happened at Gillette Stadium, also known as home of the New England Patriots. Patriots long snapper Joe Cardona, a graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy, was promoted to the rank of lieutenant, which is a special honor that takes place on the 75th anniversary of D-Day.
Excellent. Well, good for him.
Very,
Definitely.
very
Congratulations.
cool. Congratulations, Joe. From one Joe to another Joe. Congrats, brother. Detroit Lions have signed free agent wide receiver Jermaine Kearse. Kearse was a part of the Jets previous year.
They could use
and was more seen as the slot receiver, the guy that was more of a possession receiver for them. Now, Detroit Lions, and I think this is a perfect fit because they're desperate, I think. After trading Golden Tate away, one of their best receivers that they had, they still got Marvin Jones, but they're missing that third guy. They end up getting it with Jermaine Kearse. The Philadelphia Eagles and quarterback Carson Wentz, we talked about this many times. Is he going to be signed? Is he not? Well, guess what? They reached an agreement on a 4-year contract extension. The deal is worth $128 million, including over $107 million guaranteed. That will keep him in Philadelphia through the 2024 season, per ESPN's Adam Schefter. So we've had this debate before. Is he worth it? Is he not? Well, quite honestly, they didn't have a choice.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Once they moved on, listen, they weren't going to pay Nick Foles $20+ million a year as a backup to keep him there. Mm-hmm. And with that added money now that they had in the cap space, they decided to commit completely to Carson Wentz and give him an extension.
Yeah, why not? And do it now instead of even waiting how he plays this year. And then all of a sudden, some other people ask for theirs, and then he asks for the biggest, you know what I mean, on top of it. So.
Yeah. And that's the thing, too. It's funny how now that we're a year away, guys like Derek Carr, when they sign their deal, oh, my God, that's absurd. Oh, my God, Matt Stafford, that's absurd. Mm-hmm. Those contracts don't look so absurd right now, do they?
Yep, absolutely.
Texans fire GM Brian Gaine. Texans have also interviewed former Lions GM Martin Mayhew, which I didn't think he was very good GM then. Mm-hmm. I think they're just kind of going through their due diligence right now. And the Texans have also put in a formal request with the Patriots to talk to Nick Caserio.
Well, they also did
John
mad.
John McClain of the Houston Chronicle reports. Go ahead.
Patriots are saying it's tampering, though. That they already talking to him or something like that, so they want to file a claim about tampering against the Houston Texans.
Maybe. I don't think how.
It's
listen.
funny that the Patriots want to throw that out there when everybody points the fingers at them cheating or this and this. They're like, well, these guys did this.
Yeah.
Nobody believes you, Patriots. Nobody.
Cheatriots.
That's right.
Jets and running back Bilal Powell have agreed to a new deal, keeping Bilal Powell at home with the New York Jets. Funny thing about this whole thing that happened is they worked him out a year later after his injury. Now, I get it. He had a neck injury. There was some concern with it. Can he play with it? Can he not play? Will he be medically cleared? They worked him out, though. And that's part of it to find out, getting the medical checks done. But why don't you just go straight to the medical checks? Forget working him out. You already know what this guy can do. You already know that he'll be in football shape by training camp's end. Just medically check the guy. You know you want to sign him. Quit wasting time.
Yeah, why not?
And the Jets have agreed to terms with not just a player in Bilal Powell, but also ex-Eagles Vice President of Player Personnel, Joe Douglas, to be their next GM. And this is a huge get, I think, for the Jets. I think Joe Douglas is well deserving of this position. I think he's going to do a good job. Coming from the Eagles, it was only a matter of time until this guy gets a shot at GM. So Joe Douglas leaves Philly, goes to New York, and hopefully this is going to be a good marriage, because between Adam Gase, the head coach, and now Joe Douglas, the new GM, because usually it's all about relationships. You can't have a GM and a head coach at each other's throat and expect to be successful down the road. So I think they really looked at who was available, who they could possibly get, and they ended up coming down to Joe Douglas for the New York Jets.
You know what's funny that with this one too is Adam Gase ended up being the interim GM, and he was kind of in the helping of hiring this new GM. So it's kind of funny how that works out.
And it has to
usually
be.
a coach doesn't help hire the GM actually to replace him as GM, and it's kind of it's interesting. But they are buddies. They get along, and I think. Wasn't he trying to get somebody on the ESPN analyst, like maybe Kirk Herbstreit or something like that? Or somebody
No.
Was it?
Not for a GM position,
No.
but that's to help with the scouting
to
department.
help with the scouting department.
It's Todd McShay.
Todd McShay, that's what it was.
From ESPN.
Yep,
He's one of the, I mean, I guess you can say one of the best, but really it's only because he's known under ESPN why he's considered one of the best talent evaluators. I think he's okay. He does an okay job. I don't agree with a lot of stuff that he does. But I think it's just in the preliminary. It's in the preliminary discussion right now that possibly they might bring him in to maybe head their scouting department. It's fun to talk about, but I don't think it's going to come to it. It could, but he does have a pretty cushy job with ESPN right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So. Why not? Why leave? You know, I mean, but who knows? If that starts a trend with Mike Mayock, and then all of a sudden, you know.
Yeah, right. You see everybody.
Yeah.
No one's going after Mel though.
Yeah, I know, right?
What gives?
That's true.
You know, what are they worried because Mel has maybe thrown the rumor out that he's going to retire? I think it's just a rumor.
I don't know.
I mean, but who knows? Maybe Mel
Maybe
Kiper can go somewhere to help a team out.
We'll see.
But interesting enough, the Carolina Panthers announced quarterback Cam Newton has been officially medically cleared to throw the football in minicamp, everybody. No, Panthers fans are really happy. I also know that there's quite a few other fans that play against him that are pretty happy because he's not that great of a quarterback, real simply put. But Bears unveil classic jerseys for their upcoming 2019 season in the NFL's 100th anniversary this year. The Bears are another team that just unveiled classic jerseys for the upcoming season. If you want to check them out, go ahead and get on Facebook. Go to our Football on the Know show group. Scroll down. They're right there on display for you to take a look at. They're really unique. They're different. They're
almost like the Michigan Wolverines.
I was just going to say that. The Michigan Wolverines, but with orange stripes.
Orange, yeah.
You know, so it's interesting. But go ahead and check them out if you feel free to do so. And here's one story that kind of really bothers me.
Oh, grinds my gears.
Johnson County District Attorney Steve Howe confirmed Friday that criminal child abuse investigation into Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver Tyreek Hill is no longer an active investigation. What? Are you kidding me? Audio evidence that the fiance/wife, well, now she's the wife, but she had obtained, gave it to her sister, said, if I give you the cue, send it to the newsroom. She gave her sister the cue. She sends it to the news. It gets blown out of proportion. Hey, listen to this, listen to this, listen to this. He not only, you know, they're having a conversation about the kid's broken arm. Don't you ever mention my name with this. Don't you ever do it. He also threatens her that she should be scared of him. This guy is a loose cannon. He's an absolute scumbag. He does not deserve to be in the NFL at all. I think the NFL should have came down hard on him. They should have ended his career, much like they did with Ray Rice. It is absurd that he's even being considered to play this year. And he's going to be, reportedly, he's going to be going back to training camp. It's unreal.
Mm-hmm.
This is
especially after the past stuff that he's had. You know, a lot of times you can't bring up the past things that happened
He
along with the case. But I mean,
he choked his then fiance in college and punched her in her pregnant stomach. What the hell, NFL? With bad history like that and the history that you just found out, I don't care if he is being prosecuted or not. Step up. You want to claim that you're all against domestic violence? Well, show it. This is not showing me. Sorry. I know this is by the law here saying that the case is over, but the NFL should step up and just get rid of him.
We fucked up.
You're darn right, NFL. You sure did. All right. I got to get out of that story here. Next one.
All right, let's move on.
Tight end, Kyle Rudolph. There was questions about Kyle Rudolph. Is he going to be traded? Is he not going to be traded?
Yeah,
is the team going to step up and maybe make an offer that they can't refuse? But Kyle Rudolph, even though they drafted Irv Smith Jr., Alabama tight end, out of this year's draft, tight end Kyle Rudolph has reached an agreement now with the Minnesota Vikings on a 4-year, $36 million contract extension per Adam Schefter. So he is staying in Minnesota, everybody. And now they have what could be potentially 2 studs at the tight end position to utilize this year.
Yeah, and Stephon Diggs and then Adam Thielen. I mean, Kirk Cousins, you're swimming in it, buddy. You got to make it happen now. Again, because it is crunch time.
That window's closing.
Yeah, absolutely. There you go, right there for the Vikings.
You know, we've talked about it plenty of times before in other shows that the Vikings window's closing because look at all these free agents that are going to come. Now, yes, they re-signed Xavier Rhodes. They re-signed, Anthony Barr this past season. They re-signed Michael Kendricks. But there's a lot of talent on that roster that could go and leave after it's all said and done. The Saints have signed corner. We talked about signings. The Saints have bolstered their depth at cornerback and have signed Kayvon Webster, the ex-Rams corner who was signed last year, ended up being hurt for most of the year, if not all, and wasn't really able to contribute. He's looking to catch on with the New Orleans Saints this year and hopefully a playoff and maybe even a Super Bowl run. According to Ian Rappaport of the NFL Network, Jones is skipping mandatory minicamp this week. That's right, none other than Kansas City Chiefs D-tackle Chris Jones is holding out right now while he waits for a new deal. And this is to be expected. A lot of the bigger names for teams across the NFL, guys that are coming down to like either the second to last year or maybe even the last year of their deal, they want that future with the team. They want to stay. They want some security, job security. And this is what Chris Jones is holding out for. But we'll have to wait and see. He is a defensive tackle. D-tackles usually won't pay. You can't tell me you're going to pay him more than Aaron Donald. He's not Aaron Donald-like.
Yeah.
So where are they going to mutually agree on? Will they mutually agree? That and more coming next week.
Maybe, next week in a couple episodes. Who knows?
Per an official release from none other than Cal University, Aaron Rodgers donates a seven figures donation that will be used to help renovate the team's locker room and establish a football scholarship named after none other than Green Bay Packers superstar. This isn't the first time he's done this. I think by his career end, he might just have every building named after him because all he does is donate to Cal.
Well, that's good, though. Yeah, I mean, good for him. And again, it goes towards scholarships and things like that. So, I mean, that's good for up and coming, for kids that want to be able to get those grants and that money to get their career started. So that's great.
Yeah, with the donation, though, it's really interesting, too, because it's not the first time he's done it. Mm-hmm. He's done it the previous year, the year before that. He's always giving back to the college that kind of put him on that pedestal to get him drafted. So he's showing appreciation in the form of donating, and I can tell you right now, the university just absolutely loves Aaron Rodgers. I mean,
he's a great alum. There you go.
Yeah,
he's a great alum. That's what they ask that alum all the time for money.
Right.
He's doing his job.
Per ESPN's Adam Schefter, the New Orleans Saints' Cameron Jordan agreed to a 3-year deal, $52.5 million extension on Tuesday that includes over $42 million guaranteed. Oh, my Lord. And can max out to, get this, $55.5 million. Cam's getting paid, y'all.
Here comes the money. Money, 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 money.
And that's what Obi's singing all the way to the bank.
Oh, yeah.
Former Falcons wide receiver Roddy White. I remember Roddy White. Yeah. Roddy White was awesome. But former Falcons wide receiver Roddy White will be entered into none other than the Falcons' Ring of Honor this season. One of the best all-time franchise wide receivers that the Falcons have ever seen is now going to be part of the Ring of Honor for them. Raiders, you already heard it earlier in the show. Jim spilled the beans.
I'm sorry.
Raiders to be featured on HBO's Hard Knocks for the 2019 training camp. It's upcoming right around the corner. that should be a very interesting one. Can't wait to see it. Although I might just wait to buy the DVD and just watch everything. Kicker Robbie Gould hasn't signed a franchise tag. It's to be expected because Robbie wants out, everybody. He does not want to kick for the 49ers. He wants to end his career as a Chicago Bear. He wants to bear down and kick right through the uprights. And Niners are not allowing him to do so. The Niners are being very, very resilient on this whole thing. They do not want to trade him. They don't want to give him up. I understand, but at the same time, maybe they just don't want to have the kicking issues that Chicago has right now because they
probably.
They can't
they
seem
could be like, what are we
to
gonna
find
do?
a kicker. They've gone as far as to saying, "Hey, open tryouts. All you Chicago natives, come by, kick a field goal, see what you can do." And
they're doing other kind of stress scenarios too, with the silent room, like that. There's nobody else there. Silent pressure and
It's so
loud
ridiculous.
pressure, and
Dude,
they're really
come on.
overanalyzing this. It's a kicker.
You put the kicker out there, you pump up some crowd noise, and you see if he can kick. Because that's what's gonna. He's not gonna kick in silence. Let's be honest.
Right. And you want a good kicker. Don't get me wrong, but you know what? The wins and losses or how you go into the playoffs shouldn't really hinge on your one kicker.
Yeah, but
you need a good one, but you need it when it's crunch. But
it's a
come
part
on.
of. It's definitely a part of the game,
I don't
and
know.
they do need a decent kicker. Everybody
they
needs
need
one.
some. Yeah, I hear you
So,
there.
I can't imagine. I don't understand actually. There's hundreds of thousands of kickers out there, and you can't find one to fulfill the job. Listen, the Raiders found a new kicker. They drafted Eddie Pinero 2 years ago, right? He gets hurt, done for the year.
Yeah.
They bring in none other than Danny Carlson, who was cut by the Vikings and outplayed well above expectations. They end up trading Eddie Pinero this year away to someone else. I think they trade him to Chicago, to be honest. So, I mean, I don't know what's going on
And
in
I know
Chicago.
they got Blewett over there in Chicago. They've got a few guys.
Yeah, so
that's a fun
I don't know. We don't know what the situation is how it's gonna end. We know that Robbie Gould has not signed his franchise tag, and he's ready. He's willing to battle against San Fran to get out of there, and he wants to go
home,
back
with
home,
his family and stuff. Yeah, let's do it.
All righty,
Chicago. They want him. They to want him back. That would be
Absolutely.
such a big difference for them.
I mean, here's the other thing too: is you got to wonder, like, what was Chicago thinking letting him walk?
Yeah, in the first place, right?
I
Yeah.
mean,
I don't know.
Should have just re-signed the guy.
Yeah, don't know.
Anyway, father of current Saints DN Cameron Jordan and former Vikings player Steve Jordan will be entered in the Vikings Ring of Honor this season. And you can expect probably, if Cameron Jordan has a bye week or something, depends on when they do this thing, he should be there, or at least try to be there for his father.
There you go.
Pretty amazing. The Kansas City Chiefs have signed offensive tackle Mitchell Schwartz to a one-year contract extension worth $11.255 million, per his agent Mike McCourtney has announced. The Titans are retiring Steve McNair's number 9 jersey and Eddie George's number 27 during the 2019 season, so they will be honored by their respective team as well. I mean, Steve McNair, Eddie George, what a freaking duo.
Yeah, that was great
were
when they were both
amazing.
on the field. I mean, that was amazing times for them. So
Definitely. The New England Patriots have filed tampering charges, James alluded to earlier.
I did. I'm just Mr.
Against the
whistleblower.
Houston Texans for Houston's pursuit of Nick Caserio for its GM vacancy, according to ESPN Adam Schefter. I just don't get it. If they have formally requested to talk to him and haven't talked to him yet, bye, Shadow. That's our know-it-all cat.
Yes, I'm cat
Making-
sitting, and she has been pretty. She wants the limelight.
But this is confusing to me because if they indeed made an official request to interview him, and there hasn't been a decision made, but now the Patriots, because we don't know all the details of this story, it just broke out like today that the Patriots are filing tampering charges. I haven't heard any details that the Texans have even talked to Nick yet. So if they haven't even talked to him, now listen. They have talked to Nick Caserio last year when he was available. So are they trying to file charges for what happened last year?
I don't know.
I don't know. It's very confusing. We'll have to wait at least another week to find out more details about this. But this is pretty funny. the Patriots are now saying, hey, hold up, wait a second. Something illegal's happening.
Man, well, maybe even now they're at this point. They're like, we just got to stop losing some of these people because now
I'll tell
even
ya.
Bill Belichick is taking over the reins of the coaching the defense. He does it on the sidelines all the time and stuff
Right.
like that. But now he is taking upon himself to be the whole guy
Right.
there in charge. So maybe they are. Maybe they're like, dude, some of this has got to stop. We got to try and keep this together.
And if you notice that, there's a lot of teams around the NFL that have been targeting the front office of New England for quite some time, and they're plucking one after another. We look at Mike Vrabel, who ended up getting a head coaching job. Detroit Lions. I forgot his name already.
Matt Patricia.
Matt Patricia, there you go. And, and then you got the Miami Dolphins and Brian Flores. The coaches are leaving. Now front office is being attacked. Everybody wants to be a winner, and they're like, hey, you know what? Why don't we pluck some guys from the winner in the New England Patriots?
There you go.
And there you have it, everybody.
That's the
That
drop.
is the drop, and a long one at that.
It was, but
Told you to
so
hang
many
in there.
points that you bring up though that it's worth talking about just a little bit too. So that's what happens. Bring that stuff up and you start talking about it. You know what I mean? So there you go. That's the drop.
All right. That was
We
a
want
long
to
one.
thank everybody for joining us tonight on Facebook. We are streaming through Restream, so we're on YouTube as well and Periscope too. So thank you for chiming in with the comments and
Right.
checking us out.
Follow us
like,
on
share,
Twitter.
Post, follow us on Twitter.
That's right, hit it.
_no. And what else do we
YouTube,
got?
Football on the No Show. Subscribe. Hit the notification. Get all the updated content. We got shows brewing. We got skits going. We got the whole shebang.
Yep.
Make sure you hit us up on
Snapchat
YouTube.
Too,
Us on Twitter,
Instagram. We're all
Facebook.
over. Just either Football on the No or FB_no. That'll set you straight. You'll find us wherever you go.
Eventually.
How about that? There you go. And again, we like just some of the other segments. We were doing the top 10s. We've been doing that the past month or so. And now this month also we've been doing some of the biggest questions again that a lot of these other divisions have or teams and things. And because still, despite after free agency, then drafting, and then some people are still picking up some guys as it goes, trying to fit their spots now that camps are starting and maybe even some injuries start to pile up a little bit. It's interesting to see what the teams are. A lot of new faces on new teams. The Antonio Browns and things like that. Odell Beckham Jr.'s in Cleveland. And so we decided to come up with the team's biggest questions. And this week we are covering the AFC North's biggest questions. Spin it out of there. There we go. And this is the last week for the AFC, Joe. Then we're going to just
The NFC
move
conference.
on to the NFC now, finally. Yeah, so we're going to do that here. So we're on the NFC North, and that's going to bring up – we're going to start with the Baltimore Ravens first. All right, and now the question I put together here for the Baltimore Ravens is, will we still see a run-heavy offense? Last year, they were second in rushing. Now they move on from Alex Collins. They add Mark Ingram.
Right.
They drafted Justice Hill, too, as well. They still have Edwards there. So, also we saw Lamar Jackson come in. Like, he came up after, 5 weeks or so? Then they had a bye week, started him, and then he was to start it from here on out. But if you look at Lamar Jackson's stats last year, passing or rushing, he had 147 attempts for 695 yards. That's the second leading rusher on the team, and 5 touchdowns. But the one thing he did have was 12 fumbles, and that was first in the league in fumbles.
Right.
So, and you see his stature. He's pretty frail.
He's slender.
He's very similar to what Robert Griffin III was, who happens to be even their backup at this point. And so that's what they were going, run heavy, that type of mixed offense. It threw a couple people off, I think, looking at this offense here, and was able to be successful. Now a second year under that, again, trying to maybe protect Lamar Jackson. Or are they going to keep him back in the pocket more? Has he been training on that to stay in the pocket more and make him win there? I'm not so sure. I mean, they moved on from Michael Crabtree and John Brown. They drafted Marquise Brown now and Miles Boykin, so 2 wide receivers there, in the first round. And but if you look back at his passing stats from last year, though, too, he only threw 58%, and he had 6 touchdowns and 3 INTs.
Right.
So that's not very good either. So what are they going to do here? Are they going to try and stick with the run here, Joe?
You know what? I think that they're going to be listen, they're not going to change everything dramatically. I think what you're going to see is they're still going to be heavy in the run game. I don't think they're going to utilize Lamar Jackson as much in the run game. I think they want him to be the quarterback. Now, I'm not high on Lamar Jackson. I didn't like him coming out. I don't think he can be that franchise quarterback that they want him to be. He's not going to be a great quarterback passer. He's more of that dual threat type of guy that you're going to have to utilize in order for this offense to keep rolling. Now, you mentioned those stats that you rattled off, and it doesn't look good for him when he has to throw the ball. You know, he's had his struggles in college, even though he was very flashy, but it was mostly because of his mobility. You know, he's not the most accurate passer. He's terrible at throwing the deep ball, which Joe Flacco was great at. They're going to lose that kind of that deep edge that they once had, and it's going to limit this offense altogether. I think when you utilize a guy like Lamar Jackson, it's tough. It's like that RG3 flashback, you know, where when he was with the Redskins and how good he was at being that dual guy. Now, I'm not trying to compare them, but RG3 was a better thrower of the football, much better.
Yep.
And when he was allowed to run as well, it made him almost impossible to stop. It was hard to figure out how to stop RG3 until he got injured. Then everything, he just fell off, all the wheels fell off. Lamar Jackson, the same thing could happen to him. He runs so much, and he does not trust himself. That's the other thing, is he's not great at diagnosing these complex defenses. He rushes the throw sometimes. He makes some mistakes. He's thrown into double coverage before, which is where you start to see those interceptions. Now, coming into another year, listen, teams talk all the time. Every offseason they're saying, we're going to do this better, we're going to do that better, we're going to make Lamar Jackson more of a passing quarterback. You can't make someone that isn't a passing quarterback a passing quarterback. He is what he is. He's one of those dual threat type of guys. If you can utilize that in play action to try to get the defense to come up and then throw over the top of them, stuff like that, almost in a sense gimmick plays at times, that's where I think you'll have a successful offense. But if you're going to try to make this guy, I still think they're going to run the ball a lot. You know, that was the whole reason why they went out and they got Mark Ingram, why they went and they drafted Justin Hill. You know, they want to run the football, and that's their makeup. That's what they've always done. They've ran the ball and thrown when they needed to. It's going to be a little bit harder with their quarterback, with Lamar Jackson. I think it's going to be very hard to do. And quite honestly, now that teams have tape on Lamar Jackson, and now they are able to see his tendencies and what he likes to do. When pressure does happen, if you get the slightest pressure on him, he automatically puts his eyes down and he bolts and he just runs. And that's what he does. What's up, Shadow? How you doing?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And that's
here
the
too.
problem.
Yeah, and that's what they're going to want to try and do is contain. And once they realize that they can contain, they're going to say, all right, we're telling you, throw it. Throw the ball. Let's see you throw this out of here. We're gambling on this. We're saying that you cannot throw your way out of this one.
Right.
So we're going to contain, and when you decide that either you're going to still try and run, we're going to pop you, and if not, you're still going to go down for a sack for holding on to it too long.
Right,
So,
and here's the other thing too, is teams are going to watch the Chargers-Ravens game, the playoff game. They're going to watch that, and they're going to – what they noticed is that what did the Chargers do? They did something really uncanny. They took 3 safeties and put them where the linebackers were. So they had the flexibility, the speed at those positions that if Lamar Jackson tried to run wide or make an escape, the safeties were already up at the line to run them down and stop them. And that's what made the Ravens offense struggle. They better hope that he can develop quickly because I'll tell you right now, they're in for a rude awakening this upcoming season. And I don't think that they're going to – I think they're going to struggle a little bit. I think this offense is going to be, hard-pressed to be successful.
Yeah, so, I mean, there's the questions we have for the offensive line, and it is – or offense altogether. That is a big question, and who knows? It could be answered right week 1. Who knows what happens with them. All right, another question I had for the Baltimore Ravens now is can the defense remain dominant? Because back in 2018, they were first in yards, second in points, 4th against the run, and 5th against the pass. I mean, that is lights out, great defense, and that's what this team has been kind of the cornerstone of defense behind Terrell Suggs and things like that now.
Right.
So big moves here. They don't have Zadarius Smith anymore, who had 8.5 sacks last year, was their sack leader.
Right.
He's off in Green Bay.
Yep.
Terrell Suggs, he was second.
Right.
And he's off in Arizona now.
Gone.
So he's gone. Eric
Yep.
Weddle goes to the Rams. C.J. Mosley goes to the Jets. And he
Jets.
was their top tackler.
Right.
But then
And quarterback of the defense.
Yes.
He's the guy that kept everybody in check. He was the one that was making the calls. So, I mean.
and then you bring in Earl Thomas now, though, too. He's had a
Bring in
big
Earl Thomas.
injury.
Hey, you know what? I will say this, Baltimore. You have one of the best duos in the safety department there is. You know, Tony Jefferson, and now you have Earl Thomas. Are you kidding me? I mean, just like when they had Beardman. I forgot what his name.
Eric Weddle?
Eric Weddle, yeah.
Yeah.
The bearded wonder, you know, that was a very nice tandem there too. But now, I mean, if Earl Thomas can stay healthy,
Yeah.
This-
I mean, that's a great swap. If
gonna
you're
be
going to swap
tough.
Eric
That's gonna be real
Weddle
tough.
for
Right.
Earl Thomas, but again,
Right.
all your top leaders are gone now.
right?
And what did you really do? They drafted a few depth guys, and they grabbed Shane Ray from Denver, Pernell McPhee late. They grabbed here from who was he?
Washington
Redskins. Yep, these got him playing DN. Shane Ray again, but the issue with those two guys too, they have health issues. They have a bit. They've only been in the NFL a few seasons now here, but they've even been unhealthy at times, to where if they're in, they can produce. But if they're not in every game,
I'm just not buying it. I'm sorry. Shane Ray has not produced. He hasn't been the player
yeah, I
that
know.
he was
I
drafted.
saw where he
was
potentially
terrible.
could. Like, he had one good season, had a flash, but again, he hasn't been on the field
Not good.
enough.
Right. He's not only has he been injured a lot, but he's also, when he has been on the field, hasn't been really that great. That's why Denver was willing to let him walk,
Right.
because they didn't see him as being one of those cornerstone pieces to keep. You know, same thing with Pernell McPhee. He's been around to other teams as well.
Yeah.
He's kind of a journeyman in himself. This defense is going to have to be just reset button, hit it now. They already are in the process to remake this because they've lost way too many veterans, and not just guys that have been around. Guys that have made huge impacts on this defense. You know, you go back to when Ray Lewis left the team, and everybody was like, "Oh man, Chris McAllister left the team. What's going to happen now?" The team still stayed together because they had these cornerstone pieces like a C.J. Mosley, like a Terrell Suggs, a.k.a. T-Sizzle. You know what I mean? They had those guys to hold the team together as veterans, and they were able to still command this defense and teach the young guys that came in. Now, looking at this defensive roster, I think there's not going to be a problem with their secondary. I think
Right,
their
yeah.
secondary is
Yeah.
still tight. You know, Marlon Humphrey, one of the
Brandon
better,
Carr still
one of the
there.
better young corners in the league. You know, Brandon Carr, still good, especially in this defense. He fits very well. He's still able to contribute there. And Jimmy Smith. I mean, Jimmy Smith is coming back. Jimmy Smith has had a little bit of a rocky road, like in terms of injuries. He's been injured. He's been healthy. He's been injured. He's been healthy. He's got to stay healthy to really kind of help this team. He's a really good corner, but he's got to show that he can stay healthy and contribute. Other than that, you look at the C.J. Mosley, subtraction here. That's huge. You know, Shadow's in the background yelling because Shadow's very upset about the Baltimore Ravens as well.
Absolutely.
But C.J. Mosley moves on, and he goes to the Jets. Now, that's the quarterback of your defense there. That's the guy that makes all the calls. Now you're handing it over to an unknown at this point. Now, I will give credit to what the Ravens have done. The Ravens have always managed to find talent that's able to kind of step in. They are no names by any means. Sometimes they're undrafted free agents that make a name for themselves later on. But there's one guy that I really would like to see is Patrick Onwuasor. That guy kind of made a statement in special teams last year with punishing hits. He also came in and got some reps on defense and was a great tackler, a guy that was very instinctive. He has to step up. I think he could easily beat Shane Ray out for that position, and especially with the guy being there. And you also got to remember Jalen Ferguson, who they just drafted, a third-round pick at a Louisiana Tech. Mind you, it's the alma mater of Terrell Suggs. Mind you, Jalen Ferguson, I know this doesn't mean anything in the NFL necessarily, but he broke Terrell Suggs' sack record in Louisiana Tech. So he's especially the Ravens, see him as being that next developing pass rusher for them that can come off the edge and hopefully provide a nasty pass rush for them coming into this year. He's definitely going to get his fair share of reps. He's going to be involved. But overall, I think the secondary will be tight. I think the linebacking core will be good. It won't be as great as it once was, especially with Mosley not being there. But they will be tenacious. They have always been. They've always managed to find these guys that are great players, great football players, and they fit their scheme, much like what the Patriots do, but now with defense. Defensive line-wise, though, I think that's where their biggest weakness is. I think their only strong guy that they have there right now is Brandon Williams, who's been a nose tackle and a tough guy to move on that defensive line. Other than that, they got a lot of youth. They got some guys that are going to try to come in and prove themselves. I think that's their biggest weakness. So are they going to be able to stop the run is my biggest question. I don't know if they're going to be able to. So that remains to be seen, but that's where it's going to hurt them. I think up front it's going to hurt them. The inexperience in the linebacking core could hurt them in terms of pass coverage. I think they'll be adequate at run stopping, but you know what? That's why they play the games every Sunday. So that'll be interesting to keep an eye on. But I do think they're going to take a major step back in terms of overall defense.
There you go. Yeah, so that's the major questions we have for the Baltimore Ravens. Right now we are covering the AFC North and their biggest questions we have for their teams. Next up, we will be talking about the Cincinnati Bengals, and there's some excitement coming around on this team here, especially Joe Mixon. He's working with this offense now that Zach Taylor has, and there's a lot of unknowns here. Again, because now, finally they move on from Marvin Jones, so now we don't have him anymore. Did I say that right? No, that's right. Was that right? I don't know. Marvin Lewis. I was like, Marvin Jones. Marvin Lewis, finally. I forgot his name already. That's great. Awesome. All right, so how much will Zach Taylor's offense look like Sean McVay's here now? So because he's, everybody's looking for the Sean McVay guy. They have similar type of personnel and who they have there. Hopefully, John Ross, after his 50th freaking time, can maybe produce like we were hoping that he would. Just do it. Come on. We've seen flashes. You got A.J. Green there still, They did draft Jonah Williams, who I kind of wanted the Giants to go for. Oh, son of a – they only had like the pick right before us. Yep. Man. But then Joe Mixon, he's going to be a big part of the running game here and receiving. And maybe we could see the best Andy Dalton yet in this type of offense here. We've seen what it did for Jared Goff. So who knows? How much are we going to see of this whole thing?
Here's the thing: is when you have a guy like you look at the Packers with Matt LaFleur, coming from the Tennessee Titans. When you look back at his resume, it's not very ensuring. It's not.
Quarterback coaches and things like that.
The experience isn't there in that coaching department as calling the plays or even being a head coach for that matter.
Yep.
Now you got Zach Taylor, who was much like Matt LaFleur. He's coming over, but not as an offensive coordinator. He was more like a quarterback's coach. He was more seen as trying to develop the quarterbacks, which could be good, but he's not Sean McVay. Even though he's come from his tree, that doesn't make him Sean McVay. He's going to have to develop an offense. It's going to be very similar to what the Rams, because that's what he knows. And from the teaching that he's had, the little bit of teachings that he's had throughout his career, he's going to throw in some wrinkles in this style offense. But I really don't see him being as good as Sean McVay. Nowhere near it. I think he's going to go through some, speed bumps in his coaching, in his head coaching tenure with the Cincinnati Bengals, and I think he's going to have to rely on a lot of the people around him. So I hope that he has a good coaching staff, because he's going to have to, as he develops as a coach, he's also going to have to coach on the go, so to speak. He hasn't been that big and impactful in the limelight. You mean to tell me that he's coming from Sean McVay's offense, which Sean McVay designed, which Sean McVay also called? I'm sorry, I don't see him being the next Sean McVay.
Yeah.
He hasn't proven to me that he could do that.
Right.
Now is his chance to do it. It's going to be hard to do. One thing that is looking positive for him is that they've managed to establish a very strong offensive line now for Andy Dalton in place. They have some talented tight ends to utilize in Tyler Kroft. He left, I think.
Yeah, Tyler Kroft is not there.
Left.
They still have Tyler Eifert, but again, he gets injured.
They have Uzomah. Is really the go-to tight end for them at this point.
Yeah.
So I'm amazed that they re-signed. I just can't believe it. But But Tyler Eifert, he gets injured every year now. It's almost like it's like clockwork. He never can stay healthy now. He's got way too many injuries. He's got a bad back. They're going to have to move on from him, and I think relatively quick. But then you look at the receiving core now. You look at Tyler Boyd.
Yep.
Made a huge splash last year, was the go-to guy because A.J. Green couldn't stay healthy from time to time. And you do bring up a good point. John Ross has to be more involved. I think that was more of an offensive standpoint with Marvin Lewis and how they were running that team last year. John Ross didn't get a lot of opportunity because they were frankly scared of him getting injured again. I think you can't be scared with this guy. You already know coming out of college that he was heavily injured. But you got to get him on the field to make some plays happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when you got Tyler Boyd and A.J. Green out there, if you put John Ross in the slot, I'm sorry. I don't think there's too many guys that are going to be able to stay with this kid.
Yep.
And I think by him getting the ball to him quickly and having him run around like a little jitterbug that he is, I think he's going to be able to avoid some of those contact hits and stuff and not have to worry about it. So this is going to be a very interesting offense to watch because as much as I think they already have the talent, and not to mention, like you already brought up, Joe Mixon, it goes without saying, a guy that can run the ball well, receive the ball, and he can even block. That's the other nice thing about Mixon. He can stay in all – hi, what's up, Shadow? And he can stay in at all times and produce for this offense. The unknown is Zach Taylor. What this offense is going to look like. Is it going to fit the players that are already on this team? Remains to be seen. I don't know what's going to happen here. I think that overall, I think this is going to be a play as they go. It's going to be a little bit of a bumpy ride, I think. I don't think it's going to be that smooth transition that everybody's expecting, even though they have the players there. I don't know. We just don't know what to expect from this offense and how impactful it's going to be with this team. So Zach Taylor, I think it's going to be bumpy. I think it's going to be coaching decisions that are going to be made. I think there's going to be mistakes made, as far as, decisions that have to be made on the spot, at the sideline. Do they go for it? Do they not go for it? What play do we run? There's going to be a lot of checks and balances all throughout the season. I think that the Bengals, even though they have the talent to be successful, I think that they're going to be a little bit under expectations.
Now, what do you think about now how I didn't have another question lined up for it, but as I'm looking at it now, what do you think the difference of not having Paul Gunther now with this defense? Is there going to be a little bit of a change, you think, on the defensive side of it?
Well, we already saw it last year without Paul Gunther, and they didn't really lose everything, because they still had the core coaching staff already there. Now, the coaching staff has changed. It's going to be a different defense, and even though they're still kind of going with that 4-3-ish type of hybrid scheme, there's a different sheriff in town. They're going to have to learn a new defense. Now, whether that fits them or not, again, we have to wait and see because these players have been around for a while. The bulk of this defensive roster is aging,
especially in the
big
front.
time.
Yep.
Geno Atkins, Carlos Dunlap, they've been there since day one.
Yep.
Preston Brown was a nice signing for them at linebacker. You look at Dre Kirkpatrick. He's another guy that, even though he's in this prime of his career, he's been there, done that. Now, will this new defensive scheme, is it going to fit these guys? These guys that are on this defense right now currently fit to a T Paul Gunther. Now that Zach Taylor and company have inherited these players, they got to do their due diligence here and make sure that they don't go too off script and drastically change it and still play to the player's strengths. I think that's going to be the challenge all season long, defense and offensively both.
Yeah, so that's some of the questions we have for the Cincinnati Bengals now, too, as we're talking about the AFC North. Biggest questions. Let's move on now to the team everybody's been talking about with the AFC North now here. It's the Cleveland Browns.
It is.
A lot of excitement. We've heard everybody saying from they're going to be contenders for the AFC Championship to even just the Division Championship. Right. So, who knows? But some of the questions we have then for me is, can they take the division? With the talent that they have,
Yeah.
You know, they added Olivier Vernon and Odell Beckham Jr., Sheldon Richardson up in there. Last year, they had a great draft with Baker Mayfield, Nick Chubb, Ward, you know, so that was great there. So they mix all those guys together. They also have Myles Garrett, too. So, I mean, it's a great team that they have all together. Now, we've had other super type of teams before with, you know, the Philadelphia Eagles didn't really mesh well with Vince Young and things like that. You know, I think some people might have been surprised or worried or wondering how the Rams would have played last year. Well, they played well. They made it right to the Super Bowl with the different types of attitudes and talent that they had together, and they meshed. So what's this team going to do? Baker Mayfield, despite he was the offensive rookie of the year, he had for me a good amount of turnovers still too. I mean, he has been fairly accurate, but still some of the turnovers he had, I'd like him to dial down a bit, and maybe even having Odell Beckham Jr. there along with Jarvis Landry could help with that too, and help advance in that. So where's this offense going to go and this Browns team?
Nowhere but up, bro.
Nowhere but
that's
up.
it's
Yeah,
that
that's
simple.
true. Well,
and here's the thing: is you got to remember too, Baker Mayfield.
That's where they kind of
coming
were
in-
last year. Where are they going to go? No,
coming in,
they were already
and they did
16, so
And
they had to. Have
They did, and they
right.
improved even in Baker Mayfield's rookie year. You know, for him to kind of take that team over and given the reins, given the key to the city in a sense, and with Freddie Kitchens now, you know, we saw that whole like inner, you know. Halfway through the year, they decided to fire Todd Haley at offensive coordinator, fire Hugh Jackson. And move on. And now we just like we actually thought that this was going to happen, and where Freddie Kitchen was going to take over as head coach. It's a perfect marriage. Why would you change the offense now? And sure enough, it happened. Baker Mayfield keeps his offensive coordinator, now head coach, together. That chemistry that they've developed in just one season is off the charts. They've done a dramatic job in not only helping Baker get better, not in his rookie year, but also this team as a whole has gotten 10 times better. You look at all the weapons that they've added. You know, to be able to pull off a trade for Odell Beckham Jr. and to already have the roster that they had. Just to add to it, you had Jarvis Landry. Now you got Odell Beckham. You had David Njoku, who they got in the draft. You know, the list goes on and on. Antonio Callaway, that people are kind of pushing to the side and saying, who's that guy?
Yeah.
That guy, if he can manage to stay on the straight and narrow, he could be another dynamite weapon to be utilized. And you look at Nick Chubb in the backfield, guy that exploded on scene his rookie year. So in this offensive line, even though they're a little aging, I think that'll be the next step that they're going to improve on in the coming off seasons. But this offense is incredible right now. Yes, it's on paper. It's probably one of the best offenses now on paper, a young offense that's going to be there. And then you look at the defensive side. Now, this defense just didn't get good overnight. I mean, this defense has been good for 2 to 3 years with the current players. Now, yes, they did go ahead and they traded Jabril Peppers away and that sort of thing, but they've added players to this team as well that's going to make this team strong and tough to deal with. You look at the defense; they've been there. They made the few additions that Jim just mentioned. You know, with Olivier Vernon to play opposite Myles Garrett. And here's where it kind of got tricky: is they decided to move on from Emmanuel Ogbah. They traded him away to the Chiefs, and Olivier Vernon not only fits that loss, but I think he's a better DN for this defense to go along with Myles Garrett, the likes of Sheldon Richardson in the middle, and company. And the linebacking core is insane. You may not know them by the name, but Joe Schobert, you got Christian Kirksey, who's almost
Christian
a Pro Bowl
Kirksey,
linebacker.
yeah.
They are very, very tight there. And they pulled off what I thought was a not really a surprising draft pick, but I was surprised where he slid. And Greedy Williams to play opposite, you know, Mr. Joe. What's his name?
Mr. Joe.
At cornerback.
Oh, I don't see him. What do you mean, Denzel Ward? I don't see
Denzel
any
Ward.
Joe. I was
Denzel
gonna
Ward.
say.
So,
Hey, Bob Money's in the house, Joe. Bob Money, yo, what's up,
what's
Bob?
going on, Bob?
What's going on, brother?
But now you have Denzel Ward, and you also have what hopes to be your next shutdown style type of corner in Greedy Williams. Now, the problem with Greedy is that he's very slender. That he's going to have to bulk up immensely for this upcoming season in order for him to be that next shutdown corner. Now, he's got all the coverage skills. He's just a little weak. If he can develop that, I think we better watch out for this team altogether. I think that they're going to take another step forward. I think that you do have a shot to win this division, unlike anybody else. Now, listen, last year, without all these additions, last year they went toe-to-toe with the Steelers.
Mm-hmm.
And, yes, the Steelers did get a little bit better, but they're another team that also lost some players.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's equal playing ground right now, and I think the Browns could – pretty much they could take the division this year. It would be surprising, but they could.
It is a mix, an interesting mix. Not so much that they're all elite, but I think they're all in a nice even pot here to go.
Right.
I heard Jimmy Garoppolo is doing good in OTAs. Yeah, we would hope so. 49ers fan here, Bob Money. We were just talking about them not too long ago, and yeah, it's interesting to see where they go with their wide receiving core. Like you said, they just signed Joe Staley to another 2-year deal here, so he's staying. So that's good for them with Mike McGlinchey and stuff. So sure up that offensive line. Who are they going to use as the running back? Maybe all of them or whatever they can do here. I don't know.
It's really, really crazy to me, but all reports right now to San Francisco are saying Tevin Coleman, the newly signed running back from the Atlanta Falcons, is going to be the starter. That's what everyone's expecting to happen, which is crazy because that means that one of those four, I'm sorry, but one of those four is going to get cut.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be a shame because I think not only did I think the Niners had one of the best running back cores in the league last year, they end up going ahead and signing Tevin Coleman out of nowhere. And now it's going to be tough because now you got to really think about who you're going to cut because, I'm sorry, every running back on there could start on another team and be the featured back.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll remains to be seen. But Jimmy Garoppolo, as Bob Money just brought into the equation here, Jimmy Garoppolo is as good as ever. I mean, he's healthy once again. The problem with Jimmy is that he's got to learn to either slide or just get out of bounds and don't take the hit. And that's kind of what derailed the 49ers season last year.
Mm-hmm.
I think if Garoppolo stays healthy, they win a lot more games than they ended up winning.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because he is the guy that's running that team.
Mm-hmm.
And doing it well with these new additions that they made this year with the multiple run. I mean, who knows? Is Kyle Shanahan going to come up with some kind of crazy idea and use 3 running backs at the same time or something? I mean, I don't know, but it's insane now that they've managed to upgrade their team again. Another offseason, another draft goes by. Mm-hmm. The defense looks even nastier.
Oh, yeah.
You pull off a trade
Absolutely.
for D Ford to add to this team,
Mm-hmm.
and Nick Bosa is now a part of that defensive line. Oh, my God. They are going to get after the quarterback. And with this underappreciated secondary that they've already had, I mean, I'll tell you right now, Niners are a lot tougher than people might think coming up to this season.
Yeah, that's why I think in this division it gets a lot more interesting. You got Jimmy G back. You have now Kyler Murray now for the Arizona Cardinals now.
Right.
So, I mean, that adds a different aspect for this team. And the Seattle Seahawks, who sold off a bunch of people, but now they have DK Metcalf in there to help with Russell Wilson. But he's shown that he can bring them to the playoffs all by himself.
Right.
But again, now these other teams, they got their quarterback back. And then who are you going to be seeing here? You know, this is going to be a tighter race now, I think, and
Definitely.
a more interesting division. And don't forget, too, Marquise Goodwin can come back here and maybe show that he is the true number one. They do have Jordan Matthews here, but he has never, I don't think, really panned out to be what he could have probably
But
been.
Jordan Matthews has been used the wrong way for such a long time in his career. If you put him in the slot, I think that's where he's going to do a lot of damage to people. He's a big body receiver. He runs good routes. He has hands. It's a matter of putting him in that slot position. If you got guys like Dante Pettis coming back for another year, he's going to be even better. He's going to play on the outside role. You also got Marquise Goodwin, who can take the top off of defense. There's a lot to like. Also, you got the tight end there.
George Kittle, who was like the number one star for that team, and again, who could not get covered at all.
Yeah.
It was crazy what he was doing last year.
And that's why he's one of the best receiving tight ends, is because it's hard to defend him. He can right down the seam. He can just beat you flat out. He's much like a receiver in a tight end's body in a sense. He's just unbelievable. So when you got these young pieces around a guy like Kittle, and you got the running backs that they do, and this offensive line that's still staying together with Joe Staley, Garoppolo coming back, this team's going to be dangerous. I don't think they're going to make they're not going to make like a huge, deep playoff run type of thing, but I think they could scare some teams in that division and make a push for that, maybe come in second. It wouldn't surprise me.
Absolutely. So we're going to the DJ Horn to Bob Money, bringing up some of that 49ers action. It's good to talk about the 49ers here and there, and exciting to see what's going to go on with that division. Then maybe now we can finally see what this team is really going to look like all together, especially with the new additions, too. They got Deebo Samuel they drafted, too, as well, so a little more wide receiver depth. And George Kittle, again, can you repeat what he did last year?
Absolutely, 100%.
With a better quarterback. So here, and Mike Tackett joins us again here, and he says, back to the Cleveland Browns that we were talking about, how does Kareem Hunt contribute once he is reinstated? If Chubb is hot, do you run the risk of messing up the offensive momentum? I think he can only help out. I mean, why not? I mean, yes, you're going to have Nick Chubb is going to be rocking and rolling, and if he's hot on a hot run, he's going to perform too. But Kareem Hunt, I think, is just such a great talent. You cannot just not throw him in there, you know what I'm saying, and throw him, see what you can do with him.
Here's where I struggle with this, and I don't think this is a team that the Cleveland Browns didn't even need Kareem
They don't
Hunt.
really need him.
And this is the problem. When you have a young player like a Nick Chubb who is already ascending, why stunt his development? Why stunt him and take away reps that he can just become better and better as the games go on? Now you're going to add Kareem Hunt into the mix. You didn't add Kareem Hunt just to sit on the sidelines. And he's going to be part of this whole mix. He's going to be involved. There's no doubt about it after he serves his 8-game suspension. That's half the year already gone. So now just say, for example, if Nick Chubb is like what Mike is alluding to, if he is running and halfway through the year, he's got 700 rushing yards and he's got 7 touchdowns and he catches out of the backfield and he's making plays left and right. And Kareem Hunt's finally healthy to come back. In week 9, he's ready to go. Why would you take the development away from a guy like Nick Chubb? It doesn't make sense to me. Even though since they already did sign him in hopes of him coming there, it's going to happen. It's inevitable. Mm-hmm. Kareem Hunt is going to take away snaps from Nick Chubb. It's very disappointing. And don't get me wrong, Kareem Hunt is a great running back. But when you have a guy like Nick Chubb who is very young in his career, who is ascending, it doesn't make sense. The signing doesn't make sense to get this guy. I could understand if there was no Nick Chubb. If all they had was Duke Johnson Jr., who they utilized more of a receiver anyway.
Yeah.
I get the signing. It makes sense to me.
Right.
But since they already drafted Chubb 2 years ago, and he's playing the way he's playing now, I mean, it's nice to have a 1-2 punch. I just think that, I don't know, I just think it's an unneeded thing, but who knows? Maybe Cleveland can make it work.
The one thing, though, I see in Kareem Hunt, though, too, is what the Chiefs did. He was big in the receiving game as even like a slot receiver, though. They would throw him underneath in the zones, and he'd be wide open. If they can utilize Kareem Hunt in that way and still keep Nick Chubb, have them both on the field at the same time,
but that's
I don't
the
think
problem.
It takes away from the carries that much of Nick Chubb.
That's the problem, though. They have Duke Johnson already for that position. Duke Johnson is their receiving back. So Kareem Hunt, he hasn't really been a receiving back. He's been a dump-off guy who's getting screens and that type of thing. So I don't know. It's adding too much confusion in the backfield that you don't need.
Yep, and that's kind of what Mike Tackett's here saying too. Kind of sorry to interrupt you, but I agree with the same kind of thing. Is that he just fears that it would stunt Chubb's growth, grow for the future. Not the moment. Doesn't want to be backed by committee. Yeah, but they gave him a shot though too. Again, because they knew him. You know what I'm saying? And here you go. This is a nice talent that was out there. A lot of other teams passed on him just because of what he had done. So,
right.
I mean,
100%.
it was kind of a value pickup for them, so it's understandable. And with what's going on with Duke Johnson, though, so he wants out even, too, because maybe he's feeling that he's there. Maybe they do lose Duke Johnson. So then, they got him there, too. I don't know. Or maybe it's just a one-year rental and then see you later. Who knows?
Duke Johnson Jr. has a valid point. He feels unwanted by the team. And it's definitely because of the Kareem Hunt signing.
Mm-hmm.
He knows himself. He's like, wait, you just signed Kareem Hunt? Mm-hmm. I know Kareem Hunt's a really good player. And this is another player that I think that the NFL should not allow to play in this league. I think that, he's run its course. There's video evidence of him beating a woman while she's down. Mm-hmm. I mean, and if his friends didn't step in to kind of break it up, it could have been way worse. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, for the NFL to once again lay low and just kind of try to sweep stuff under the carpet, people have not yet talked about the whole Kareem Hunt situation that happened. And everyone's kind of overlooking it. The Cleveland Browns themselves have not taken any backlash, as far as I know, about this whole Kareem Hunt player to come back and play for them halfway through the season. There's been nothing.
No.
Maybe there will be something when he gets closer to play, but I'm just taken back. I'm baffled. I really don't know why this is not a thing, why no one's arguing or yelling at the Cleveland Browns, giving them a hassle for this whole thing.
Well, it's amazing how it goes from, one running back like Ray Rice to be completely out and as vicious what he did, but then all of a sudden you see others commit typically close to the same type of crime, and they're available to play or this and this and
Ray
not
Rice
get,
got booted out of the league.
His career is done.
Ray Rice got booted right away.
And
mind you, Ray Rice was 27 years old. He was in his prime. And one video changed it all. It was a video of him punching a woman. I believe it was his girlfriend.
His fiance. Yep,
his fiance in an elevator.
Yep.
Video evidence. What did the NFL do? Oh, boom! Shut down. You're out of the NFL. You're kicked out. You're not allowed to come in. You're done. There's video evidence of Kareem Hunt beating a woman while she's on the ground.
After a hit, going to continue to kick
do
and
more.
things like that while they're already on the ground.
And he's allowed to get it. He gets an 8-game suspension.
And no remorse with his apology. It's more like,
not at all.
I feel horrible about what
my
happened.
God.
You know, I wish you guys would just forgive me, though.
It was the most insensitive interview I have ever seen.
Yeah.
He never broke up. You never heard his voice crack. He was and he never apologized to the family or the victim.
I agree.
I was this guy's only being suspended for 8 games. Are you kidding me? It doesn't make any sense. So we can just talk about that for a long time.
Bob Money, he chimes in again too. He's talking about his 49ers here. You think we can make the playoffs now, Joe?
It's possible.
It's possible,
and
too,
here's
especially
the
with the way that division's close.
The way that division is, and to be honest with you, I didn't think Seattle Seahawks were going to be very good last year.
Yeah.
I think with the loss of Doug Baldwin, I think it's a bigger loss than people think. Yes, you still have Tyler Lockett who can spread the ball
They didn't have him
deep
a lot last year,
and
though,
stuff
either.
like that. But I think it's a big deal. I think it's bigger than people think. Yeah, he wasn't out there all season long, but he was out there a chunk enough to make a difference in those wins and losses. And Russell Wilson heavily relies on Doug when he was in there. So I think without having him, and I know everybody makes a big deal about DK Metcalf being drafted and how people are expecting him to take that torch and be the next generational type of receiver for them. Possible. But he's got a lot of work to do in that route running thing. And if that doesn't get corrected, he ends up not being a very good receiver. I don't know if this Seattle team, even though they proved us wrong last year, I don't know if they can continue the success they had last year. And because of that, I think the 49ers have a real shot at this division. It's it's not going to be easy by any means. They do got to play in the 12th man, against the 12th man. They do, this division is going to be very interesting. And I do tend to think if the 49ers can stay healthy, especially Jimmy Garoppolo, if Garoppolo stays healthy, I think that they could make that push and win the division.
Yeah, that's definitely with that division the way it is, and even the way some of the wild cards pull out. I mean, they could possibly make it here. Mike Tackett's back here. We're going back and forth between Browns and 49ers. Here we go. Of course, there hasn't been any backlash from the Browns community. They're on the verge of being successful for the first time and in a long time, much like all the noise that goes on down the road in Columbus, whether to be Tressel, Urban. Success will override moral decisions for those who don't know what it is like to win. I know, but we're talking about even the highest up, the NFL, where they all agreed on it. I mean, we're talking about all teams, and there were teams back then when the Baltimore Ravens, had to let go Ray Rice. They cut him first, and then all of a sudden he was just completely banned. There's teams that could have used him. Yeah, there was teams that were horrible. I mean, the Lions were still terrible.
I'll tell you right now, I was kind of. You know what? I mean, if you're as a fan, when you saw Ray Rice get cut, I'm sorry. I know he did a very bad thing. It should have never been done. I definitely don't condone that kind of activity or thought process or whatever. I don't condone domestic violence. However, for a split second as a fan, you had to think like, hey, maybe my team can pick him up right now. We need a running back. That has to be, and the same thing had to be said for Kareem Hunt. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
great
I
guy
hear you.
in his prime type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But again, we go back to this over and over. The NFL has had now 2 more opportunities to say, we don't stand for this. This is not what the league is about. We don't condone domestic violence. We don't condone violence in general. And they had 2 opportunities with Kareem Hunt and Tyreek Hill to do the right thing, and they chose to basically turn their backs. And I'm shocked that as of right now, there hasn't been any back. Now listen, there was when Ray Rice got in trouble, when that video evidence came out, there was backlash across the league. Not just the Baltimore Ravens were upset, but I'm talking fans around the league from different teams that weren't even involved, not even in the division, all the way around. There was heavy backlash for it, and the NFL said, oh, we need to do something. Why is it different now? Why is it just because it's more public now, where we get to hear about these things nowadays, almost sometimes before, I don't think it's before the league knows about it, but it's like getting to that point where news spreads like this. We have Twitter now. We have all these things. Friends of friends are posting stuff.
Well, yeah, and
there's still no backlash.
Well, that's the thing. I almost hope that it's not getting to the point to where you had the Ray Rice, then you had Greg Hardy and things like that, to where they heard it bust out, and then all of a sudden now it's not the norm, but people have heard it enough to where now they kind of forgot about it. The first initial impact is going to hit you like a ton of bricks.
Absolutely.
Oh, my goodness, this is what's happening.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, a few years down the road again, it's not making news like to bigger ones.
Right.
Other people that aren't traditional fans, like you're even talking about other communities that don't pay attention because now it's within the NFL's kind of matter to handle this. It's not nationwide world news like that kind of was, because that was it.
Right.
And when you think about it, you want to talk about, maybe I want my team to maybe pick them up because of the talent you got there too. And for me, even you look at the different levels, why you say Kareem Hunt should be out, I agree with as well, just because his, I think, is in a step more heinous into the fact that I think people have had issues or times where they fight with or argue with a loved one and they lose their mind for a second in the moment and do something they regret, whether they say something or whatever, or an action that they do, not even to the person directly, but around it, that affects that person because they are upset in the moment. Kareem Hunt was upset in the moment and continued to take it to another level to a perfect stranger that he had no idea who it was, and then it's another woman to continue to kick somebody and things like that. That's already past your moment. That's like, you know what I'm saying? It's past to where, I screwed up at that one moment. I just lost my mind.
Yeah.
And for him to have
he wanted to do damage.
And then the repetitive nature with Tyreek Hill, I mean, it's appalling. So we'll see what happens with all that.
It's just another broken record.
Just another, so we'll see if something ties into there. Maybe we harshen the laws for it. I don't know. And Joe said, there isn't going to be anything from the NFL, but I hope maybe at one point, maybe they just say, maybe we'll throw it out there. You just suspended for a game or two. I don't know, but
it's got to be more. It's got to be more.
I know. I hear you. I agree. But we're not
I just can't
control of that.
I should be.
Yeah. See, Goodell, it's whatever he feels like, within at that breath of air. So, all right, so we are talking about the biggest questions for the AFC North. I appreciate everybody's chiming in and things and all the comments and the questions. We love it. We love talking about this stuff and hearing your opinions. We love your guys' opinions.
Definitely.
Because we know we're not exactly right about everything either. It's our opinion, and we like to hear your opinion, and we could talk about it in a nice manner and appreciate each other's opinions. So here we go. Finally get into the Pittsburgh Steelers in the AFC North. This is a kind of a different look at this team.
Way different.
Yes, because now two of the killer bees are squished. They're gone.
Right.
They're gone. They're not there anymore. Yeah. So, I mean, we saw what Pittsburgh could do last year with James Conner at the helm for a little bit. So my big question here is, can Pittsburgh just make it back to the playoffs, not even take to the division? Can they continue to, because last year they missed it for the first time in like 6 seasons or something. And if they do it back to back, they haven't done that in like multiple years. Missed it twice in a row. They're decent at wide receivers, like we said. Juju now there, he really bust out last year with big yardage and stuff on the other end of Antonio Brown. Some people think it was due to Antonio Brown. James Washington still an unspoken of hero there for that team too as well. And Dante Moncrief, they add to it. Eli Rogers still there. They drafted Deontay Johnson. And don't forget, I like to have them sprinkle in Ryan Switzer. We saw him a little bit there at special teams in odds and ends times where they put him at running back, but then wide receiver here and there. And he was able to perform. So they got some depth there still, minus Antonio Brown. And James Conner, like I said, he started off strong, but you saw towards the end of the season, he slowed down in production not so much. Who knows if he could have been able to handle the workload. I mean, they still have Jalen Samuels there, who decent too, mixing back with Conner there. But how are they going to keep this offense together? Is it going to look similar? They still have Vance McDonald there, too, who was great, who kind of overtook Jesse James now, because Jesse James looked like he was going to be the guy. They make the trade, get Vance McDonald, which I'm sure Bob Money knows all about. And, dude, everybody remembers the monster stiff arm. You can't forget the monster stiff arm. And this guy's a beast mode. And so what are they going to do minus Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell?
Yeah, Chris Conte will never forget that one. I just feel bad for that guy. How embarrassing. But you know what? This offense, it's going to look much different. Let's just face it. I know they lost Antonio Brown, and people are going to be like, yeah, but, Antonio Brown, he was blaming Big Ben and saying that, he didn't really make him the receiver that he was and spread all these different things. And you know what? Maybe it was, like Jim mentioned, the heat of the moment. Maybe the whole bickering back and forth between the Steelers, like Big Ben and Antonio Brown and Juju and all that, it got out of hand. It definitely got out of hand. And even to this day, Juju still is going off on Antonio, So I think both sides, you just got to forgive, forget, get done, turn the page to the next chapter of your life, and now let's get back to football. So Juju's going to face double teams now. This is what's going to happen. And as much as people say Antonio Brown, was he really that big of a deal where Juju kind of took over? That's the reason why Juju took over, because teams were double teaming Antonio Brown all the time and still didn't do a very good job of it. But it paved the way for Juju Smith-Schuster to get a bulk of the workload and start to become a bigger part of the offense last year. Now it's a lot different. There's no more Antonio Brown. I don't care what Steeler fans say. This is a dramatic change for this offense. Now, as good as Juju is and as young as he is, as well as he plays, it's going to be interesting to see how he takes on double teams now. Is he going to be that impactful? I think, like Jim mentioned before, the depth of this receiving core is going to receive a lot of the workload. Juju's still going to get some catches here and there, but because of the double teams that he's going to have to face, I think it's going to make it much tougher for him to become that receiver that he was the previous season. You look at Dante Moncrief, who, if he can stay healthy, he was a very important piece to the Jaguars. He played slot receiver for them, and when he was playing, he was almost the sole receiver that Blake Bortles was throwing to and making plays with. You bring up Eli Rogers coming back from injury. He's another guy. Can he stay healthy? But James Washington is a guy that I could see explode. I could see him explode in production. I could see him taking that next step, much like what Juju did, but James Washington making a name for himself this year. This team is going to be much different. And despite what anybody says, it's not going to be that different, even if Antonio Brown's not. Listen, Antonio Brown is one of the best route runners, he's 31 years old right now. He still can outwork a lot of players in this league. He still can run one of the crispest routes you'll ever see and make amazing catches.
That's the thing you saw, too. When Ben needed to get out of trouble, he would just throw it up to Antonio Brown, and Antonio Brown would help. He was his safety blanket in a sense to get him out of some of that stuff. So, and he doesn't have that now. And I know Juju Smith-Schuster, we saw him up and coming, that he was going to be a nice receiver, which he was. And I think what clouds some of it, though, too, on top of it, he's likable. Dude got
He
his
is.
bike stolen. I mean, he was a likable dude. He plays Fortnite with the kids. You know, he just went
He's
to
a
that
big
graduation
video
party.
game
So I mean,
nut.
he relates to the kids much like what some of the Odell fans, you know, they're relatable with the young people that watch football and stuff like that. So you hate to knock on the guy, and you're not really knocking on him. He's not going to be able to produce, but you saw what he's able to do. They're going to try and key up on that. They don't have any real veteran presence, I
Right.
think, in the wide receiving core. That's what you always had with the wide receiving core with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Right.
When you didn't have Heinz Ward at his elite, status anymore, he moved down to another spot. In comes the next guy, Emmanuel Sanders. When he's gone.
Remember this too. Juju is not
rotating.
facing the number 2 corner anymore. He's facing the best corner from each team.
Yep.
So that alone to me is going to be challenging.
In the AFC, that's pretty tough too, especially. So, I mean, now looking at the defensive side of the ball now, they really attacked that linebacker situation. They really missed having Ryan Shazier there and stuff. And their front line is still decent. TJ Watt and all of them still
Cameron
making
Hayward.
things. Yep. Oh, you could just list the names up there.
Javon Hargrave.
It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. But you can see they don't go and drafted Devin Bush, the linebacker from Michigan, for the first round. I mean, great pickup. Oh, my goodness. Imagine that he was there. That's the thing about this draft this year, too. The value that people got in that first round that were still there was amazing. And they drafted Justin Lane, too, a corner in the third round. And Mark Barron they add, who was a safety for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but then moved to linebacker, was linebacker with the Los Angeles Rams. So now he's in there in that spot, to help add some depth there where they were a bit shallow. So now that fills a gap there for them. So that would be great for them on defense in case, their offense sputters here and there, not being able to run the ball like they would maybe hope to with James Conner.
And here's the thing, too, that's interesting is that when you look at the guys the one guy that they drafted to replace in that right inside linebacker role in Devin Bush, he's a much lighter linebacker. He usually they like to have those big guys that'll just stuff the run left and right. But I think they're taking a little bit now. Here you're seeing the evolution of the NFL on defense, where you're noticing smaller linebackers that can not only pass coverage but also stop the run as well to get off tackles. And Devin Bush is that type of prototypical player, and I think that's what they're going to now. You're not going to see these big, huge guys, but you will see some pretty decent-sized men on the edge. When you look at T.J. Watt, who plays that outside linebacker position to rush the passer as well as play the run. And you brought up Mark Barron. Now, Mark Barron is the smallest of all the linebackers right now, and he's playing inside. I'm interested to see, with Mark Barron's speed, is he going to be able to get around blockers before they get their hands on him? Because if he can do that, he can be very disruptive against the run. If he struggles with that, however, this could be a big weakness up the middle for the Steelers. Other than that, the next biggest problem for this defense has always been secondary. You look at who they have. They drafted Terrell Edmonds last year late in the first round, played very well for them. Sean Davis. I mean, this is a guy 2 years ago that he was my underrated player of the season.
Yep.
He's continuing to develop, continuing to be the next greatest safety for the Steelers. But corners has been the biggest knock on them, and I don't see them having a very strong cornerback depth right here. They do still have Joe Hayden, but again, I got another corner that's aging, that's getting older, that they're going to have to replace eventually. And to be honest, their corners, to me, is their biggest weakness on this defense. I think they've done enough to strengthen the defense up front for that front seven. They have some decent safeties. Now I think the next thing that they got to attack is corners. That's been the one Achilles heel for them, is they've gotten passing yards on them. They've been pretty good at knocking the quarterback down on pass rush. They've been pretty good at stopping the run. But the one thing that keeps getting them is teams are able to pass on them. I think that's going to continue, especially deep down the field. That's another thing. Intermediate, deep down the field, I think that's where they're starting to struggle. Even though they have some decent safeties back there, teams are designing their offenses to camouflage some things to get guys open. And I think that'll continue. However, I do think the Steeler defense will be better than last year. I do think they're going to be very hard to run on, and they do get to the quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Now with this kind of almost like a revamped linebacking core right now, especially in the inside, if Devin Bush can be the guy that the Steelers hope that he'll become, this front seven is going to be unbelievable.
Absolutely, and then they're going to be tested there again. Because if you look at last year's stats for the rankings for the offense, we were talking about here how is their running game going to do. Last year they were 6th overall in points, 4th in yards, and 2nd in passing. Now in running they were 31st, only had 91 yards per game. So that's got to change again now, because again, if you don't have a threat like Antonio Brown, you force them to try and run against you and stuff, and they can't make it happen, split it, make it a little more even for them. Yeah. They can run into trouble.
Right.
So there you go. That's our AFC North. The biggest questions for the AFC North, and that's going to round up our AFC section of the biggest questions. And next week we will start off with the NFC, and I guess we'll do the NFC East, right? NFC East we'll do first. Shadow makes an appearance again, and we'll see how that goes. Maybe she can move on finally too. I don't know. We're house sitting for her. She's been very vocal and chiming in, being part of the show. So
she has her own opinions.
Has her own opinions as well, and I know you guys do too. So let us know at FB_no on Twitter, and on we're Instagram, same thing. Snapchat, send us some cool videos, snaps. YouTube.
Football on the No Show. Subscribe. Hit the notification
bell. Get more
bell.
members to join our group too at Football on the No Show too. I've been adding some members here and there too.
Spread the
love.
love.
We've been talking and sharing stuff. So we want to hear your opinions. So thanks for joining us. Thank you for Down Monday again, and Stephen Murray, and we will see you guys next week.
Join us next week from 8 till 10 Wednesday night for more Football on the No with Jim and Joe.